This meeting of the Centennial School Board is called to order at 6:31 p.m. on December 13th, 2023, and a quorum is present. Hello and welcome. Excited to have such a packed room and see all these fabulous faces, and I can't wait to hear all of the wonderful things you've got for us today. First off, the meeting agenda has been distributed in board book. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I ask for a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those approved, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Director Curry is an aye.
The ayes have it. Let's see here. Next, we're going to go on to, we've got some introduction of guests. I will turn this over to Superintendent Owens.
Great. Thank you, Chair Selowski. And it's good to see, as she said, a packed house tonight with all of our middle school folks here to represent. This is going to be a little bit of a curveball because what I'm about to announce has nothing to do with Oliver Middle School. It has to do with Centennial Middle School. So we're introducing a new administrator, and if there's a way to have Rosemary Tyson, who's on the Zoom gallery, pinned up on the screen, that would be nice so that people would be able to see her. There she is. And Chief Rosales Correa, is it possible behind you to close that door and pull the screen out so the board has a better viewpoint of Rosemary and the presentations? Thank you. All right, so it is my pleasure to introduce Rosemary Tyson, our new assistant principal for Centennial Middle School. Rosemary started her position during the summer and welcomed a newborn just after the school year began, so we're just now having the opportunity to introduce her. I'll give you a little information about Rosemary's background. She worked in Redmond School District from 2010 to this last school year in a variety of different roles. For 9 years, she worked as a math teacher at Obsidian Middle School and was recognized as the 2019 Oregon Regional Teacher of the Year for the Central Oregon region. From 2019 to this past year, Rosemary worked as a district instructional coach in Redmond, as well as acting administrator for summer programming, the district testing coordinator, and leading a successful math adoption process for secondary mathematics. So she has a lot of different experiences. Prior to her work in Redmond, Rosemary served as an educational assistant in the Gresham Barlow School District before earning her teaching degree. Rosemary earned her bachelor's degree in education from the University of Oregon, a Master of Arts in Teaching from Pacific University, and her administrative license from Lewis and Clark College. She brings a wealth of experience and demonstrated leadership to Centennial. Rosemary started back at CMS, I believe, this week, and I know the school community is excited to have her part of the administrative team. So Rosemary, if there's anything I left out that you would like to share with the board, or just any brief comments that you have, we'd welcome you to share now.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to get this opportunity to introduce myself. Only that I'm with Centennial for a short time, and it's already starting to feel like home. This last week, being back in the school has been reinvigorating, and I am continually impressed by the educators and students and administrators in the district, and I just absolutely love the emphasis that this district places on equitable learning outcomes for our students and providing the absolute best that we can for our kids. So thank you for including me in your community. And I'm really excited to be here and have a future in the Centennial schools. Thank you.
Great. Thank you and welcome. Next up on the agenda is the approval of minutes. The minutes have been distributed in board book. Are there any corrections or amendments to the minutes at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to make a proposed amendment.
Okay.
I had sent a copy of my amendment to leadership requesting that we edit this to be a better true reflection under ORS 192.650 of participants' views, which I don't think the current minutes reflect. So I'll read my statement. I have read the ORS 192.660. There is no risk of materials being needing to be disclosed. Everything that I'm saying here has already been disclosed publicly. Grievance hearing was scheduled, however, due to a leadership decision, that was a November 8th executive session. Absent a board vote or discussion, board members were instructed that no questions would be allowed, no vote would be taken to resolve the grievance, and we would not be returning to public session. The reasoning given was that district council was not present due to an emergency. OSEA and Superintendent Owens presented their respective sides. However, discussion was not allowed. No action was allowed in public session or a return to public session. This was a decision per leadership. Of note, OSEA legal counsel was also not present.
Great. Have a motion to approve the amendments to the meeting minutes. I need a motion to proceed. Hearing none, we will move forward with approving the minutes as written.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Director Curry abstains.
Thank you very much. The ayes have it. Those meeting minutes have been approved. Next up, we have public forum, which I'm very excited to welcome a member from our community up. Please, this is for Amanda Schroeder. Please come up and have a seat with the microphone, if you will.
And Amanda, it's good to see you again, and it's important on the microphone that one of those has a green, so hit the button until it shows green if it doesn't already.
And you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me in the back?
Perfect, thank you.
I'm kind of in the back anyway. My name is Amanda Schrader. I am a former board member, so it's nice to be sitting back in the room with such outstanding people dedicated to improving our community. I am a Centennial mom. I have my older child went all through from 4th grade through graduation, and now she's off in college. Centennial prepared her well. And then my younger son, my younger child, is a 3-sport athlete. He plays football, he's a wrestler, and he plays baseball. His name is Kenny, and he's awesome. And I'm here talking because I wanted to talk a little bit about an experience that we had a couple of weeks ago as parents of varsity baseball players. And there are 3 women in the community who have selflessly worked very, very hard for our baseball team forever, like ever. And I have no complaints, but they didn't really know how to plan a trip with the logistics required, especially for a community such as ours. And specifically, I'm going to talk about the cost of the trip. We were informed that it was going to cost $1,000 a student at a meeting, I think the first, maybe the second week of November. And as you all know, as the board and the community here know, that we have the majority of our students are on the free or reduced lunch program, therefore the free or reduced athletic program here at Centennial. And while this was not the intention at all, there was a moment of great poverty shaming for these students at that meeting and for their parents, because we were told that we had 8 weeks to come up with $1,000 per player. Now, there are some of us that is a possibility because we've landed on our feet and had different opportunities than the majority of our folks. And I don't know how many of our kids are reduced lunch or free lunch in the baseball team, but I know that we have sponsored at least 2 players to play sports, both paying their school fees or paying their summer ball fees, and some youth football, because we think athletics are critical in being a great equalizer for the kids who are athletically inclined to develop as citizens with accountability and responsibility to teams, to develop leadership skills, to develop skills for following and being part of something greater than themselves. And to ask the majority of our folks to come up with $1,000 in 8 weeks, you might as well ask them to come up with $1 million. It's not possible, and it's Christmas time, and I just think it was an unintentional moment, but the look on the faces of at least 5 of the families in there was like, how am I going to get my kid to be able to play on this team? Because it's a roster. It's not tennis. It's not golf. It's not wrestling where, you know, if one kid doesn't show up, the others can do their best and still perform as a team. Baseball is a team that requires a specific number of players, and there are 16 kids. I think there might be 15 now, which is really dangerously low, on that roster. And what I want to do here is raise awareness of what's going on here, and also ask that I would like to ask that that these kids, the free lunch and reduced lunch or reduced sports programs kids, all be paid for by the school district to go on this trip, so their families can stop worrying and those kids can stop wondering how their parents are going to do something, and they are really stressed out about it. And to be honest, it really focused on those of our more impoverished, financially insecure, nutritionally insecure, housing insecure kids. So that is my request here tonight, to talk to you as a board, to ask that you give me assurances that those kids are going to be covered, and so their families can stop trying to figure out how they're going to save face and pay rent and buy food. So there's the quandary. I appreciate your time listening to me, and I probably used up all my time, but
Yep.
if there's any time left, if anybody has any questions of me or needs clarification, I'm happy to provide any.
Thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate you coming in and raising awareness for this. At this point, with public comment, we don't really have a discussion about it, but we will bring it up under new business and have a conversation about it. One thing that I will say is that I think that it would be great for you to connect with Marin this evening, the principal of the high school. When it was presented to the board a few months ago, we all had shared concerns with the price of the trip, and we were reassured that there was some funds at the school that could help support those students. I think that there might be some confusion with all of the folks involved. So I think that just a little meeting of the minds, we might be able to come to some sort of resolution. That would be my recommendation at this time. Yeah, please.
I also wanted to make a plea that the coaches are paid and that their travel and lodging is covered as well, because they will be doing their job, wrangling our players, helping them become responsible adults in Arizona during spring break.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Now we come to the point in our meeting where we hear from those lovely folks from Oliver Middle School that are here in the room. Oh, student rep, I apologize. I'm jumping the gun. First, we have our lovely high school students here. Marisol and Lashme, please proceed with your report first, and then we'll hear from all of you.
Hello, I'm Lashmi. I'm a student representative from Centennial High School, and
I'm Marisol.
today I'll just be presenting just what's been going on at the high school for like the last month and this month. So last month we had a heritage assembly. We had indigenous drum performers come and perform for us. And then we also had a guest speaker, and then we also had a student come and perform for us as well. Let me see this. Do you want to do this?
To add on to like the last slide also, we also like did our winter, our fall recognition, right? Yeah, our fall recognition for our sports, and we like made sure to keep it appropriate and give the respect the indigenous culture deserve during our assembly. So let's go back. Okay, we had a spirit week this week. Actually, it's still going on. We did pajama day, winter gear yesterday. Today we did ugly sweater day. Tomorrow we have holiday lights, and on Friday we have New Year's Day where we just like sparkle out. But yeah, pretty cool. We have pretty good participation.
And then a part of this week, we've been doing door decorations, and the Olaf right here is actually Miss Harden's door. And then the one right next to it is another class, obviously, trying to provoke Miss Harden. And then here are some other doors. There was a lot of doors, but it just wouldn't fit all on this slide. And then not only that, we actually bought gingerbread houses and handed it to the different departments throughout our school, as in like social studies, the math, health, fine arts. So by this week, they actually have to turn in their gingerbread houses. And here are some examples. Yeah, I think this is like a tornado, and then it's got ruined. Yeah. Yeah, right. Then, yeah. Okay, and then that's what we've been up to so far at the high school. Nothing much, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you both. Now, would you like to introduce this next one?
I would be pleased to. It's hard to believe that it was 2020 when the Centennial bond passed, and a part of that bond was the conversion of Oliver Elementary into Oliver Middle School. And fast forward a couple, 3 years, and here we are, and we've got a room full of, I was about to say otters, and I was about to get booed out of the room. We have a room full of Oliver Owls. Thank you for the visual cue. And they're here to share with us some of the work that they have been doing at Oliver Middle School. There's a lot of good work happening, so it's exciting to see that featured tonight. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Principal Jeb Hubbs, who will lead us through.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for having us. It's been a while since we've been in this room, so it's cool to be here. We know that we're second up, and we know that the high school went for a while. But don't worry, I'm not going to ramble on like Marin does. Marin, you're right there. No, I'm just kidding. We heard that high school did amazing. They set the bar really high, so we're just going to try to reach those heights because high school did a really nice job. So let's go ahead and get started with this thing. So for us, the story has just begun, meaning because we are really a month and a third into this OMS project, right? We've only just opened. We're in our second year. And our vision, our mission, our equity statement, I won't read those aloud. When you have time, I'm sure you can read these, but we'll get into a bit more of what these mean in more general terms. But we knew from the beginning that it has to start with the adults, that we would set the tone for how things are going to be at this school. And in order for us to be a community school, to operate as a community, there has to be a strong idea of what community looks like. And so we had an opportunity, and we still have that opportunity to establish that. So from the very beginning, so when Oliver Middle School was just an idea, we started off by having planning meetings. So as Oliver Elementary was sunsetting and Oliver Middle School was being born, we started off with Friday night meetings. Every Friday for about 6 months. And it was intentional that it was on Friday because, one, I wanted to make sure that when we had these meetings that nobody was like thinking about tomorrow, what their lesson was going to be, what they had to grade for tomorrow. If it's Friday night, the next day is Saturday, obviously. And so hopefully you're thinking about relaxing and not work. So your mind could be fully in the project of Oliver Middle School. Also, as this first statement says, commitment over buy-in. And so I've said this to nausea, my staff will know what I'm about to say, but like I really, really love donuts and Thai tea. And I can buy into the fact that I shouldn't eat a donut every day if I want to lose weight. But am I committed to not eating a donut every day so I can lose weight? So from the very beginning, it was important for us with the staff that we have working. Buy-in is great. Commitment is better. Commitment is what we were looking for. And so Friday night meetings for 6 months to plan a school is commitment. And that was the energy that we wanted to start with and what we wanted to make sure that people knew what they were getting into when we were starting this project. Staff voice, or community agreement is so important. I've been doing this for a little while, and I know that as a leader, that after a while, your jokes get stale, your personality gets a little tired, your winning smile is not so winning, and so when all that fades, what do you have to have? And you have to have systems, and you have to have commitment and voice from your staff. So from the very beginning, it was important that like the people who were involved in this program had a say in what the program was going to look like. Because when something goes askew, and something always goes askew, it's really easy for people to be like, oh, well, that's a Jeb thing. That's a Diana thing. That wasn't really my idea anyway. But if everybody has voice in the idea and everyone has voice in the project, then there's a little bit more commitment into that thing. And so when things go askew, all of us are responsible for getting that thing back on track, okay? It was really important, and I've been, like I said, I've been doing this longer than I can believe, to be honest. Treat teaching as a craft, and you have to evolve with the craft. I started this way back in 2002, and the way students were back in 2002 are not how kids are in 2023, right? So like, and looking at teaching as a craft that's something constantly evolving, that this is your form of expression. Monday through Friday, when you're in that classroom with your students, this is how you express yourself. This is your form of art, and this is how you're going to reach children. And then the last bullet point, treating every staff member with the idea and understanding that they want to be the best teacher they can possibly be. When I get up in preseason and I speak to the staff, one of the things I say to them is like, Diana and I are going to speak to you with the intent, with the impression that you are trying to be the best teacher that you can possibly be, and that is how our conversation is going to go. All right? So these are the actions from the very beginning about what we wanted Oliver Middle School to be. Because fundamentally, we're not opening a school just to be another mediocre school. There's a list of mediocre schools all over the state in the country, and we're not trying to be on that list. We're trying to be an excellent school, and we're trying to build something that the community can be proud of, and that we can say that we are one of the best schools in the Portland metro area. That is what we're trying to do. Everything in education, you bring a teacher an apple, right? And for us, apples are status quo. We want to be pears. We want to be something a little bit different and think outside of the box and do things in a different way. So, two things culture-wise that we are trying to establish. It sounds crazy, but we're trying to establish an academic environment where students value their education. If you are hip to what happened at Oliver last week, you know that Senator Wyden came to our school to talk about mental health issues. And our amazing student body president here talked a little bit about that and talked about how kids coming out of the pandemic were struggling a bit more than maybe was earlier anticipated or thought about, right? And so valuing education is a big deal because maybe kids don't understand, especially in middle school, when so much is about personal growth, changing personalities, physicalities, all these kind of things. Maybe education isn't at the top of a kid's list, but we want to make sure that they have an understanding that education is so important for whatever comes next, high school and beyond. We want to make sure that when we're sending kids up to merit at CHS, that they're getting students that are ready for high school, not ready just ready for high school, but ready to excel at high school. The other thing that's super important I touched on is that we have a safe and welcoming community where everybody feels free to be who they are. Again, right, like middle school is such a time of metamorphosis where people are changing in so many different ways and exploring different ways to be. And we want people to feel comfortable, whatever that exploration looks like, to be who they are. So this is fundamental to what we're trying to build at Oliver Middle School. So the challenges and realities. So we've only been around for a year and 3 months. And these test scores would say that we didn't have a very successful year last year, right? And I know it's just one measure. We can go into all kinds of reasons why these scores or whatever, or the tests or whatever they are, and people have opinions about them. But fundamentally, those scores are not very pretty, and they're not acceptable. And we as a staff recognize that, and so we're taking steps to make sure that we can improve. Are we expecting like 80% proficiencies this year? Man, I would love that, but realistically, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that that's going to be a possibility in year 2. But are we like aiming for that and taking steps to get to there? Yes, of course we are. Because like I said, we're not trying to open something to be mediocre. We're trying to open something to be excellent. So what are our next steps?
Hi, thank you. I won't sit down because we have a bunch of guest speakers coming up here real soon. So as Jeb said, you introduced me. I'm Diana. I'm the assistant principal. I am the other part of Jeb and Diana. I have been a part of the project from the beginning, which has been amazing. As Jeb said, we are noticing, Sophia spoke so eloquently to it as well, the first thing we have to do is to get kids to what we call opt-in to their education. We have to give them reason to be there, reason to learn. And what we know about that is that the first part of that is feeling a sense of belonging. So climate and culture are the foundation. It's something that we believe in. It's strong at Oliver. We get excited when people come and leave. They say, wanted to stay. It feels good to be in that building. So students have to want to be there. Our goals are social and emotional skills, building culture and community, because ultimately that's the foundation to do the academic achievement, which we are striving for. Opportunities for leadership and mentorship. Middle school is such a developmental stage. These children want to be adults. They're not. They're like really just giant 5-year-olds, but they want so much to be adults. So we have lots of opportunities. Really happy to be partnering with Park Lane right now. Great kudos to Jane Harrington over there, their assistant principal who worked with myself in my counseling department. We have almost 20 students going to Park Lane each day to mentor young students. They are in the classrooms, helping them with academics. They're on the playground, helping them with social emotional skills, which also builds their own skill. They are in the cafeteria, they are in the gym, they are in the hallways helping them walk. They are the role models for our younger kids who are going to be coming to us soon. And if you don't want to go down to Park Lane, we have amazing opportunities. Our student government, I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Thomas, who's over here, and our student body president, Sophia, to talk about the opportunity for student government and leadership roles there.
Hi. My name is Melinda Thomas, like Diana said, sorry. I graduated from Centennial High School in the early 90s and have been teaching in the district since 1999. My dad was a school board member in the mid-90s, and all 3 of my kids have graduated from Centennial High School, one as recently as 2021. So I guess you can say I'm a Centennial lifer. In my days at CHS, I was a member of the state-ranked award-winning band and choir programs, and some of my proudest, most memorable moments were being a part of those groups. I watched over the years as funding was cut and interest in the programs declined, especially as a result of the pandemic. I'm so grateful that the district and the board are reprioritizing the arts in Centennial, and I am beyond thrilled to be part of the rebuilding process. In addition to being the choir director at Oliver, I also teach student success and am the student government advisor. One of our priorities at Oliver is, like Jeb says, giving the staff a voice. We want to give the students a voice. Spirit Weeks, school dances, and many extracurricular and special events at our school are spearheaded and planned by our student council. Through these experiences, they are learning valuable lessons like teamwork, leadership, organization, preparation, and just how much time and effort it takes to pull off a successful event. And we have had some incredibly successful and well-attended after-school events at Oliver. Through all of this, we're building a strong and supportive community at OMS where students feel seen, heard, and loved while giving them opportunities in addition to academics where they can thrive and shine. Now, Sophia, our student body president.
I'm Sophia, and unlike Miss Thomas, I did not graduate from Centennial High School. I hope. I did graduate from Patrick Lynch Elementary. My sister currently goes there, and currently I'm student body president of Oliver Middle School. And I can say I was the last grade to do 6th grade in elementary school, and I can tell the 6th graders are a lot more happy in middle school with the 8th and 7th graders than they are with a bunch of kindergarteners. The experience being in 6th grade in elementary school was really something else. I went to school with my sister, who was in 2nd grade at the time, and yeah, kindergarteners watching fights between 6th graders isn't the best thing. So giving the 6th graders an environment where they can see, hey, this is what you're going to be facing in the future. This is what the 8th graders look and act like. This is how 8th grade teachers are going to be more stricter on you. It benefits the 6th graders, and it benefits the 8th graders a lot too, because we know we have a bunch of 6th graders looking at us like, oh, wow, you guys are taller. So I think the best thing about Oliver is that we run off 400 kids, I believe. 400. We run off about 400 kids. That's like 100 kids per grade. And it feels tight-knit. Like, if somebody in the hallway went, oh, my God, this kid is coming to the dance, I would know who they're talking about. It's not overwhelming. It's small, and it's very tight-knit. Like, we're a community. At the dance, I sell Spirit Week tickets often. And it's so fun seeing all the kids going, oh, who's coming to this, who's going to that, because we're all excited for this, And it's a community where you're not afraid to talk about academics. If one of my friends walks up to me and goes, hey, I need help with this class, they're not shamed for it. A couple of my friends will get together and we'll go, okay, let's go to the library during lunch and we'll run through practice tests, we'll study. You're not shamed for being, interested in academics. You're not shamed for running for student government. And everybody on the sports team, even if we lose a game, we'll go, oh, that's fine. We'll win the next one. It's a community where it's acceptance, and I think that's the biggest thing. Who's next?
You could keep going all night long. That would be great. And to speak to what Sophia was saying, one of the major benefits, I think, of the Oliver schedule is that we do mix 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So for things like electives, students have the opportunity to be in mixed grade. We have advisory every day that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they get a chance to know each other as human beings and individuals as opposed to being isolated in our building. So we have the opportunity to have an amazing elective wheel. We have the teacher assistant, which I spoke to earlier. We have art, we have digital music, we have student success, which allows students both time to work on their academics, but also time to do projects for the school and community service. And then we, as Ms. Thomas mentioned, have a phenomenal music program. We just put on an event last week, and I will let Mr. Rockwell speak to how we're bringing music back to Centennial.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Rockwell, and I'm the band director at Oliver Middle School. I stepped foot into Oliver on January 2nd, 2023 of this year. I'm about to have my 1-year anniversary as an employee in Centennial. I didn't know a whole lot. I came from Nevada, and I was born and raised in Arizona. But I knew the school was brand new, and they wanted a choir and band program. What I didn't know was how deep the music tradition in the district was. There's a lot of pride in this community about the band and choir of the past, with Centennial's Grand Floral Parade last win being in 1998. Unfortunately, due to decisions by the state of Oregon, arts programs throughout the state were cut, including here at home. Most recently, due to the pandemic, the arts were hit very hard on top of trying to recover from a funding drought. I am grateful for the support of the administration at Oliver and Centennial and on the board that have given to the arts in the last year to help us recover from these events. We went from 4 secondary music teachers in the district to 6, with the addition of 2 choir directors, including the wonderful Melinda Thomas. We have also been able to successfully start the new program at Oliver Middle School with funding for instruments due to board support. There is still a lot to do to bring music back to the levels it once was, but it is for sure starting at Oliver. Students at Oliver had no idea what band or choir even was. Some didn't even sign up. I just showed up, and all of a sudden they were in band and choir. However, they have been resilient. And some of the hardest workers that I have ever had the pleasure of working with as students. Their excitement for class is infectious, as any staff member has seen when they walk into the music room during 6th period. We laugh, we have fun, and we work hard. In less than a year, the students at Oliver are reaching levels musically that their peers in other districts reach after about 3 years of playing and singing. They just recently put on a fantastic concert with a packed cafeteria. They are now getting ready for their spring concert as well as the first outing for Oliver Middle School at the OMEA District 2 Middle School Band Festival. Music in schools has a long list of why it should stay. It improves academics, attendance, and the graduation rate. I could go on and on about the importance of music and advocate for the programs, but the most important thing is that it is an outlet for students to be creative and to enjoy coming to school. I look forward to starting a new long tradition of music in Centennial, and I encourage you all to come to our next concert on March 7th to see the incredible music that the students at Oliver Middle School are working so hard to produce.
Nice work. Mr. Rockwell, a.k.a. J-Rock. Okay. Can Sophia speak about the band for a second? Okay.
Okay, I'm in band. I play flute. I hope Mr. Rockwell knows that. But I just want to say that the kids I'm in band with, I have many other classes with. You know, there's a kid whose name I won't say, but I can tell he's falling asleep in math, right? You know, he's, kind of zoning in, zoning out. His grades are okay. And then we get to band, and I don't think I've ever seen the kid look happier. You can tell, band, it's like, we can all be honest with each other there, and I think Mr. Rockwell provides a great space for us to not only talk about academics, but since it's a less academic class, we can be ourselves around there. And I think that, bringing the music program back to life in Centennial is an amazing thing for everybody in the district, everybody involved. My sister's in 3rd grade, and she's already talking about joining choir. I just want to thank the board for the money for the instruments. My flute is amazing. I love it. Thank you. Okay, you can have your mic.
Sophia. So experiences are massive at Oliver. We want to provide kids with as many opportunities to find what many different options in life are. And this past year, we started a program through the MESD and an organization called Fly U. And the purpose behind this is to increase attendance in schools. So we've got about 42 kids who show up Monday, Wednesday, and Friday before school for an hour to receive incredible coaching. So we've got Josiah Lake, who's the founder of this organization. He played D1 basketball at Oregon State in the early 2000s. His son is now going to be a freshman playing ball at Oregon State as well. Basketball pedigree in the state of Oregon, and he runs an academy out of Tualatin that kids pay thousands of dollars a year to be a part of, and we're getting top-class coaching for free for these 42 kids to see if it's a program that works to raise attendance at our school and keep kids engaged. If it's something that does work, we'll sign on again for it at Oliver next year, and hopefully CMS can get on board with it as well. And we're thinking about helping out the high school at some point, but right now we're just working with middle level. It's not just about playing basketball, though. Last week, they brought in this person called JD, who is the lead shoe designer at the Jordan brand at Nike, to talk about how to create your own brand, and kids ended up designing their own shoes. This morning, we had players from Multnomah University come out and play with the students. They talked about how their path to college, how they're staying in college, what coaches look for when they recruit. So we're not just talking about kids getting better at basketball, but the program is to show what all the experiences around basketball and what other jobs may be out there besides playing. Kai is an 8th grader at school, and he's a part of Fly U, and he's just going to talk really briefly about what his experience in the program is.
nervous. Okay, so I think that Fly U is a great program. It definitely increases attendance. It allows students to come before school and show up to something that they look forward to. I know there's a lot of people at my school that enjoy playing basketball, enjoy playing sports, and that we're really looking forward to getting to Fly U. I actually didn't sign my slip in time, and I would like to thank Mr. Hubbs for allowing me to come to the meeting and get into this program, because it's really helped me get into a better schedule of waking up in time and actually going and hanging out with my friends before school. It's a great program, has great leadership, and other things. I think that a lot of kids, just necessarily being honest, do not want to wake up and go to school, but programs like this definitely help people get in the mindset of waking up and going to school to do something they love, not necessarily for school, but also getting in the mindset of waking up and going to school may help improve academics.
The other thing we've introduced at the end of last year is that through an organization called Isoga, which is an esports program. And esports, if you guys don't know what that is, it's one of the fastest growing sports in the country right now. And it is what it sounds like. It's gaming. It's Minecraft, it's Roblox, and it's competing against other people and teams to the point where you can actually get college scholarships for esports now. And so we've got an esports team that's fully funded. We've got actually J-Rock is also the coach of the esports team. And again, opportunities not just to be a part of something, but Friday of last week, they got to visit Warner Pacific University and get a tour of the college. They checked out dorms, library, they ate in the commons. And they compete in places called arenas. And so they got to compete in an arena on Friday. And then this past Monday did the same thing all over again, but they went to George Fox. So we're trying to provide our students with as many different opportunities to experience like whatever else is out there in the world. So just in this short presentation, we talked about esports, we talked about basketball, music, student government, right? So we're trying to expose our kids to as many different things as possible. Exposure, this might be overexposure, but I would just like our counselors, Hermione and Barbie here, to just talk really quick about like what we're doing in our counseling department.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Schaefer, aka Barbie, and this is Jessica Triplett, also known as Hermione. So over the last year and a half, we've worked really hard to build a comprehensive counseling program that aligns with our national and state standards as well as our district mission statement. Some of the things that we've done for our counseling program for our students is we have started bringing individuals in from the community who are professionals. We've been really diligent and intentional about inviting community members in who reflect our student population. They're professionals who come in and talk about what they do for a living, their profession, how they got there. Students, they love it. It's during lunch. We call them our career talks. And we've had veterinarians in there. We've had a labor and delivery nurse. We've had just some really amazing individuals come in there and dedicate their time. And Miss Mitchell kind of stole my thunder over here about Park Lane. It's been an amazing opportunity to partner with Park Lane. Like she said, we have 20 different students over there, and it's providing some great leadership opportunities for them. And you saw the pictures with the kids, and it's pretty amazing. So I'm glad we started that.
All right. Tiffany wrote my notes for me. Thank you. I got busy today. It takes a team to work with middle schoolers in the social emotional field, let me tell you. So I'm going to do my best here on the whim. We collaborate with community partners, both CSD contracted and within the community. Collaboration helps support students and families with mental health and basic needs. Some of the agencies we partner with include Trillium, Multnomah County Mental Health, SUN,
and we're starting with a telehealth here soon. For the second year, we are partnering with Snow Days. Don't tell anybody else at school, but we just got approved to take 20 students up to the mountain on a Sunday, all expenses paid, to go learn how to shred some gnar. And if you don't know what that means, it means snowboarding. So yeah, it's all expenses paid, and it's a great experience that our students may not get the opportunity to do otherwise. So thank you, Tiffany, for taking the time and putting in that application. All right, during lunch, we provide opportunities for students to build friendships and alliances through our lunch groups in our counseling center. We've got tables, we've got chairs, and different spaces for them to hang out. We have lunch groups that include the GSA, which are Gender Sexuality Alliance. We have a gaming group, which gets really silly really quick when we do apples to apples and other fun activities like that. And then on Thursdays, we do hot topics and hot cocoa, and the kids just get to debate. Sophie, I'd love you to see you there sometime. We've worked really hard to make the Counseling Center a welcoming and inclusive place for all students and families. Thank you.
I know we're a bit over, but we're almost done. Don't worry.
It's Jeb and Diana. It's going to be long. I just want to say we can give these opportunities to the students, but they have to be there. And this comes full circle back to them being present and not opting out. Instead, they're opting in. And so we have teams of teachers and teams of staff that monitor things like attendance so we can respond immediately. We saw a slight dip between the before Thanksgiving break and the after break, and a team of teachers came together and immediately put in resources to bring that attendance back up. We want kids there, and we are watching the data to make sure they are there. And as a part of our strategic plan, district-wide strategic planning, when they are there in the classroom, we are looking at specific teaching practices to make sure they can achieve academically. We have the ability to give feedback to teachers, give specific next steps. We have, this staff, y'all, if you could come out, I've seen you in our schools, it's amazing. They want to be in each other's classrooms, learning from each other and giving each other feedback. It's not just Jeb and me in there. It's not just evaluation. It's really about growing their practice. So I want to give great credit to all of them and say that ultimately the kids are present and we are going to help them achieve academically while they're there.
One of the things that we're trying to do, and this is exciting because it is, we now do have 2 middle schools in Centennial for the first time in a long time. And so what we're trying to do this year for the first time is joint PLCs. So PLCs, professional learning communities, and in every other school, it's something that's just done within the school. But we do all our PLCs with CMS. And so with the idea that we're aligning resources, ideas, teaching strategies, everything. So when our kids leave in 8th grade and CMS kids leave in 8th grade, they go up to the high school. Marin knows what he's getting. Doesn't matter what school they go to. Hopefully what we're doing at the middle level is aligned and we're working together so that both schools are sending quality students up to the high school. So we're doing it with PLCs. We've only been doing this for about 3 months. We're definitely in a bumpy period. If I'm totally honest with you, we still got some things to work out. Okay, it's not quite strawberries and cream just yet. So we need to get to the point where we're aligned as a team. We've got new ELA curriculum. We've got new math curriculum. Next year is science adoption. The year after that is social studies. And we've got to start trusting the curriculum. For better or worse, right, in Centennial in the past, curriculum hasn't always been trusted, which means it hasn't always been followed, which means we don't know if the data we're looking at is accurate. So we need to get to the point where we are trusting the curriculum, we're using the curriculum, and we're working with each other to make sure that we're staying aligned with one another. And so when we compare our data with CMS's data, it's as pure as it's going to be because we know we're looking at the same data sources and getting it from the same curriculum. So we're still working on that. We're not there yet. We've got a big meeting January 3rd that we're going to talk about this stuff, but that's what's going to be happening. We got to be willing to evolve and try new things, right? students now, every year students are changing. So we as educators have to change. This is one of the most difficult things about being an educator is you can be in this line of work for 30 years and challenges you'll get in that 31st year will be different than you've experienced before. And that's just part of being a teacher, which means you need to be able to evolve and try new things constantly, which is what we're hoping to get out of these PLCs. And then the last day, I mean, they're all important bullet points, but like, what data are we attaining? How do you read the data? How do you understand the data? And then how do you use the data? That's a culture that as long as I've been in Centennial that we have been striving for and we have not attained. But it's something that we're really pushing forward for now. And I feel like we've got the right team here. I know Nathan's working on the right team over at CMS. And so like this is something that hopefully by the end of the school year, I don't know when CMS's talk is, but I think they're towards the end. Hopefully when they're up here talking about this, they're talking about how we've evolved as a secondary, as a middle level, and that we're doing these things because it's all for the benefit of our kids. And if we can get good at this, then we know our students will benefit from it. We all know about this. We're not going to talk about it. You've heard a lot from Sophia tonight. I'm not giving her the mic back. But channel 2, 8, 12, type in Ron Wyden. You'll find the links to this event, but it was amazing. We had some board members there, so thank you for the support. But it was really great. I think Oliver showed out really well. James rocked it. Denise rocked it. And I think Centennial just came off looking really good at that. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, check it out. Also article in the Oregonian as well. Just to close with a couple things coming up in January. So pre-pan, those of you who are around know that we partnered with Kaiser Permanente for an MLK Day service project where they repainted our entire building. They did our cafeteria. They gave us a bunch of like office furniture because our office furniture was not, we just needed new office furniture. And so we got a bunch of new stuff. And then a bond passed. And all the good stuff that Kaiser did got painted over and all that furniture got removed and we got $1 million worth of new stuff. So that's great. No one's complaining about that. But they just recently got back in touch with me and said, hey, we'd like to come back and do another service day project in January. And I was like, man, we don't really have a lot going on because between the bond and y'all, we had a lot of stuff taken care of in the building. So what we settled on is they're going to show up tomorrow. They're going to like gussy up our front yard because the front yard's hurting a little bit. And our staff bathrooms could use a little, so they could use a little bit of love. So we're going to like work on the staff bathrooms. And then probably the most exciting thing of all is that on MLK Day in our parking lot, we're going to do, they're going to provide enough food for every family at Oliver, Patrick Lynch, and Park Lane food for a month. And it's going to be drive-through food delivery service in the way we do. So we're hooking up our community, we're hooking up Park Lane, and we're hooking up Patrick Lynch. So all those schools. So that's about 1,000 kids. Depending on the size of the family, will be depend on how long the food lasts. But for a family of 4, it should be enough food for a month for that entire neighborhood of schools. So so that's coming up in January. So that's really some really cool stuff. And I don't think I've told you guys that yet. So there's just a lot going on. So and then finally, I started this whole thing by saying it starts with the staff, right? It's about the children, but it starts with the staff. And I talked about buy-in versus commitment. This is commitment. And so can't do any of this without the people we work with. Whew, getting a little emotional. But they're an amazing group of people to work with. And I do think if we keep on the track that we're keeping on, we are going to do amazing things and we are going to be an excellent school. So that's all I've got. If you've got questions for us, we'll take them. Thanks so much, y'all.
Wow. That was absolutely beautiful. I'd love to go around and give each board member an opportunity to ask questions or say something. I know Superintendent Owens has something to say at the end. And I'll just start with, you guys are magic. Like, what you're doing, I really see in this presentation, it was very clear to me, community, inclusion, acceptance are very important to your school. And you're living it and you're breathing it, and the kids are living proof of that. Sophia, your voice is amazing. You got up and you spoke clearer than some of the staff. No fault, right? Like you just have a very clear. I was so impressed. I want to keep hearing that voice. I want to hear more. So I look forward to years to come. What else did I want to say? Oh, I think that, yeah, don't worry about, coming together with PLCs. There's this whole like storm and Norman Foreman. You guys are really, you got to feel that storm and to really move forward. And so just appreciate where you are and know that you really are making a difference. And congratulations, Oliver Middle School. Where can I buy a shirt? Like, I want to rock some Oliver swag. Oh my God, are you serious? Jeb did not prompt me to say that at all.
So these are the Fly U shirts that we have.
Awesome.
That's our mascot, obviously, and the Fly U's incorporated. The U is on the back because that's the name of the organization. So there should be enough for everybody.
Cool.
Missy, maybe you get the extras and bring them back.
Yep.
If your size is not in here, just let me know. And we'll get
Thanks
that
for
fixed.
putting them all by me.
Thank you. Excellent. We'll just kind of go around the room. Would you like to start us off, Director Andrews?
Talk forever too, but I have been to Oliver several times in the last 3 years through the bond projects, and just I think the facility has really improved so much, so very much, that it is so conducive to being a team, and as how you represent here tonight between students and faculty and everything. I'm just so pleased that you have become such a great team, and are continuing to do that. Thank you so much. Thanks for everything you do. The kids, I'm sure, love it.
Yeah, well, no questions. I just wanted to send my appreciation, and I got a chance to hear the choir and the band, and they were amazing. And the speech at the event was amazing, and I agree with everyone else that you need to continue on with that. And I just wanted to say thank you to all the staff. As a parent whose kid graduated last year, we had a lot of pride coming from Oliver, so thank you.
Thank you. Director Shields.
Thank you for showing up tonight. That's a commitment after a full day of work. We know what
Yes.
that takes to come here and support the principal and vice principal. Student voice is something that we've been talking quite a bit about as a district, and you've demonstrated how well it's working over years to at this time. So congratulations to you. And on the note of music, arts education, it has been something that we've discussed previous boards, this board. It really is important, and we understand that there is that relationship between the arts and the academics, and how we can continue to support that and move forward. Just hope for good things, but I have an ask, even though you guys have been doing a lot. The ask is going to be, we have a time when we get to talk to our legislators, and the successes that you have demonstrated, right, in terms of your commitment. These are important stories not to share with just us, because we get to kind of live through some of the things that you do, because you have students in the schools, etc. But those stories are going to be very important when we're down in Salem, and we're advocating for more money for what we need to do for students, not just in Centennial, but across the state. I think things that have been happening in important public areas right now have demonstrated there's an absolute need that the state needs to fulfill, and you really are the people that can speak to that, and you're listened to when you speak. So I would hope that when we kind of ask you to then want more time to give of your time and your effort to come and maybe give those testimonies to our legislators, you would be willing to step up and have those conversations. Because the impact that you have, something I don't think we understand how much of the voice of educators lose to those legislatures who have to make those hard choices. But the choice should be for education.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for the energy. Thank you so much for the excitement. You guys have a really great thing going on. I've had a hunch that great
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. It was the first school I visited when I was a brand new board member, so I was really excited to hear everything today. And it is clear that you get middle schoolers, that push and pull of like, I'm a kid, I'm a grown up, I know what I want, I have no idea what I want. Everything is fun, everything is serious. Wah! Very middle school, and the vibe and energy is perfect and fabulous. And as a huge proponent of the arts myself, whose second career is performing, I'm thrilled and excited to just hear everything that you're doing, and wish I had a better connected calendar, or I didn't know about the concert. So thank you for the March 7th tip-off date. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it is absolutely clear that you get your community and feeding families for a month. Amazing. So thanks.
Thank you. Director Curry, would you like to address the crowd?
Yeah, I don't have much extra to add. I think everybody pretty well covered it, but I did want to thank Jeb and Diane for an absolutely fantastic presentation, as well as a student body president and the kids. It sounds like you guys are off to a heck of a start. That energy is infectious. And the positivity that you have, Jeb and Diane, the way you're presenting, the truth. You got some attendance issues and some score issues, but you know what? A brand new school in its first year, you guys are rocking it. Those things will be fixed if you guys continue doing what you're doing. I have no doubt whatsoever that those minor issues will be resolved, and I am super proud to have you guys at the helm. Thank you.
Before I share, I wanted to offer our high school reps the opportunity if they had anything they wanted to add.
Really wanted to, and I was like, should I speak up? But I generally think it's so amazing that you guys have such supportive staff members. Like the high school, slowly, low-key losing that spark. But honestly, I generally think that's so amazing, and I see that, and I don't know, I'm kind of jealous. And I'm just so excited to see how this school is going to be able to shape the high school someday as well. And I don't know, I hope to come back someday and see how it turned out.
Adding on to her, I'm jealous too, because it's middle school. I never had this in middle school. I don't even have this in high school. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm a junior right now, and I'm a senior next year, so I really hope the 8th graders that are coming up next year to the high school can really help us as a high school, because we are losing participation, and there are attendance issues and whatnot. So I really hope there's a change in our environment, in our community, and I'm really excited. So thank you guys so much.
Great. I just wanted to say thank you for coming out tonight. As was said, this is a long day for our staff and for our students, and so the fact that you made the point to be here and to show as much energy as you did is impressive. I will say so much is made, and Director Curry spoke to this as well, as far as data and so forth, and we saw the data slides, and it's dangerous to go by feelings, but I will say when I go into schools, I get a certain vibe. And when I go into Oliver Middle School, there's just a vibe of belonging, inclusion, welcoming. I talk to Jeb each month and ask him how's student behavior, how's climate and culture, how's the recess, and he always has positive things to say about how that's going, and that doesn't just happen, especially at the middle school level. It takes intentional work to create a dynamic like that. And so a few things I will say is that going into the formation of Oliver Middle School, as Jeb spoke to, there was a lot of visioning that went into that. And through the staffing process that we went through in developing the staff for the school, a lot of it was opt-in to the school. We wanted staff to have a choice to opt in rather than feeling like they were moved to that school by virtue of the decisions that we had to make relative to that. So it's nice to see that those who are there are committed to the mission and vision of what's happening, and that shows in how it's reflected in the energy that we see. Also, I don't know if this was spoken to, but they all run 3 assemblies per week. So, they have an assembly during their advisory, I understand, once per week. And when Jeb originally talked to me about doing things like electives, recess, the assemblies as mixed grade levels, I kind of gave him some side eye and was like, don't we usually do that by grade level? But there was an intentionality around building that school community, not just within the pod or the grade level, but also within the entire school. And that was spoken to this evening as well. And that's really being reflected in how students have each other's back, how they are looking forward to seeing each other at events. So just a lot of positives that are happening. And like was said, we're in the first year and a half. So it'll be exciting to see how things come if this is how we're starting out. So thanks so much for being here tonight.
Okay, at this point, we will take about a 10-minute break, and then y'all can choose to stay or go if you would like. I can't guarantee that it's going to be any more exciting than what we've already seen. I will say just one more thing to Jeb. Many of you probably don't know this, but we went to the same college, and the motto at Willamette is "Not unto ourselves alone are we born," and that has been very close to my heart. And to see you living that to this day is amazing. So thank you, and we'll see everybody that wants to join us back here in 10 minutes.
Recording stopped.
A little bit. Just more on me. And less on Jake. I'm a little warm. Yeah. I can. It was when it gets so many people, like I.
David's like.
They take their seats again. Everybody named Jess, take your seats, please. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Well, that means we can.
Recording in progress.
All right, it is 7:50. Please welcome back to the Centennial School Board meeting. Up next, we've got some more reports. Superintendent Nowens, would you like to introduce this next report?
Yes, so we have our Director of Curriculum and Student Learning, Maureen Callahan, joining us virtually this evening. We have an annual report, which is our Student Investment Account report, and I will go ahead and turn it over to her to introduce that to us this evening.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Owens, and good evening, Board of Directors. Tonight, I'll provide you with our annual report for our Student Investment Account. There are 4 main areas of focus: student-focused teaching and learning, healthy culture and environment, effective systems and programs, and community and partnerships. The Student Investment Account began implementation in 2021, and we are entering our 4th year of the SIA. Let's see. Hold on, it's not going forward. There we go. Just as a reminder, the Student Investment Account is intended to improve access and opportunities for students who have been historically underserved in our educational system. These are the 2 essential elements of the initiative, which you can see on this slide: meeting students' mental or behavioral health needs and increasing academic achievement for students. Okay. Allowable uses and purposes of the grant. If you look, you can focus on the bolded areas: academic support and targeted interventions, social, emotional, mental, and behavioral supports, optimal staff-student ratios, more access and expansion, and that's related to electives, co-curricular activities, and extended learning time opportunities, and targeted professional development, which also includes additional curriculum materials. The allocations by these 5 strategies over the 4 years are represented here. This gives the historic perspective from the inception of the SIA in 2021 to now. We've targeted each of these 5 strategies, which you'll see in more detail momentarily. The Student Success Act includes activities over time. So this represents the changes over time with the Student Investment Account. You'll notice that activities from the previous years are typically carried over into the next year unless it has been completed. Last year in 22-23, we added 4 activities, which have rolled into this year's budget. Budgeted for this year is funding for additional out-of-district placements for students experiencing complex needs. The next 2 slides are broken down into staffing enhancements on this slide, and then the following slide will be services, programs, and materials. As you can see, thinking about those 5 areas, we've increased staffing across the system K-12. Changes in program. We're really, again, across all areas K-12, we've added weighted class size reduction, increased family engagement. There's been implementation of super sensory spaces, additional funding for summer programming, job-embedded professional development, and additional funds for Grow Your Own Teacher Pathways. And really, one of the things with the strategic planning, which included the equity audit, has really helped enhance the implementation of these. For the annual report, each year we reflect and report to the state responding to these 4 questions. So the following 4 slides are addressing those questions. The first question is, what changes in behavior and actions, policies, or practices we've observed through our implementation? And in general, we're experiencing an increase in support, access to programs, opportunities for increased student participation in activities, and unique learning opportunities such as our virtual academy. Of course, along the way, there are always barriers or challenges to any implementation process. Related to the student investment account, we recognize the increased complex needs that surfaced post-distance learning. With that, there is a need to make significant changes in how we educate our students while keeping social, emotional, and academics at the center of our work. These areas can no longer be attended to in isolation. Another barrier or challenge that we continue to face are related to people and time resources to fully implement these activities. And though it's a challenge, we are seeing some positive shifts in the system. Question 3 is, how have relationships with our students, focal students, families, staff, and community partners changed and or been maintained throughout this academic year? Through our strategic planning process last year, 22-23, we had the opportunity to reach out to our focal students, families, and staff and community partners through a variety of tools. We were able to see what is possible for the future, and we anticipate and look forward to this continuing to grow in the coming years. What has guided our choices and the prioritization efforts, really at the forefront of this, the work that we did last year with the strategic plan process impacted our choices and our priorities as part of the SIA as well. There's been increased focus and action to elevate students in their own learning process, implement evidence-based, culturally and linguistically responsive instruction, ensure a safe and inclusive school environment that nurtures students' sense of belonging, build and sustain an anti-racist, anti-oppressive school culture and environment to support belonging, and refine our systems and practices that promote culture of evidence-based, collaborative inquiry, purposeful action, and data analysis, which you heard a little bit about from Jeb. We continue to clarify our focused actions in our implementation of our strategic plan in order to realize our goals. Next steps for this report will be posted on our website. The report itself has already been submitted to the Oregon Department of Education. The board minutes will also be included in that. And we continue to align and integrate our SIA and other initiatives with our strategic plan. With that concludes my report, my annual report for the SIA, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much, Director Callahan. At this point, I'm looking to the board to see if there are any questions. Go ahead, Director Shields.
Just a clarification, can you remind me, it's on slide 7 about changes to 22-23, additional funds for Grow Your Own Teacher Pathways. Is that for staff, or is it at staffs and students? I mean, do we, because when you hear, I would like to come back to Centennial and teach one day, that would be a student interest. And yet we also have staff who are within our systems that may look to doing something different in the district. So what does that mean?
That's a great question, and I can refer to Assistant Superintendent Dr. Kasuda. But I believe it's really focusing on our staff development and hiring. But of course, growing your own from within is part of that. So, but I am definitely not the expert in that area. But Dr. Kasuda, I don't know if you would like to say a word.
Yes, we've actually used some of the SIA funds to supplement resources for staff, particularly staff from diverse, culturally and linguistically and ethnically diverse backgrounds for teacher pathways. We've partnered with Multnomah Education Service District and in their already existing Grow Your Own program. So we supplement that to increase involvement and support our staff.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Not really a question, but just a quick shout out to on the slide, it mentioned dual language immersion exploration, and I would just love to, don't need to speak on it tonight, just love to hear about more of that and about that in the future.
Love it. All right. Thank you very much, Director Callahan. Next up on our reports, we have a behavior safety assessment and annual restraint and seclusion report. Is there more that you would like to say to introduce that?
Director Wright is getting set up, and we welcome her presentation of this annual report.
All right, good evening, Centennial School Board. Great to see you all this evening. As Superintendent Owens said, I'm here to share an annual report with you all around behavior safety assessment and restraint and seclusion reports. So after reviewing this report, you all will have the opportunity to develop and or to deepen your awareness of district systems, which specifically include those that are associated with our behavior safety assessment, which was formerly known as a threat assessment, acronyms for the BSAT, the sexual incident response, which is an acronym for CERT, and restraint and seclusion. We'll also be sharing multi-years worth of data to update you with that, and then you'll also receive the required information for school boards around restraint and seclusion. So this visual probably looks really familiar. Each year that we come to share this information, we really want to put behavior safety assessment and restraint and seclusion within the context of many occurrences within buildings. We spend the majority of our time focused on prevention in order to limit events that could happen. And so when we think about safety drills and fire drills, we spend months and months and months doing that with students so that if it ever occurred, everyone's ready. They don't have to think about it too much. It's an automatic response. So prevention is really key for so many things in our district. We will have events that occur, and we want staff to be prepared with that. When an event occurs, we have specific systems that kick into place. After that, we also need to pose situations that help to recover, both for individuals and the systems, and then we want to respond as well. So this conversation will be within that context. All of this also sits within our multi-tiered systems of support, and so there are responses that we want all students to be a part of and to experience. There are some situations, some supports that some students will need, and then there's for individual students more intensive services, supports, instruction that might be needed. And for us as a district, we integrate those systems. We look at attendance, behavior, and academics intertwined, because it's really hard, as the Oliver Middle School team was pointing out, there might be attendance that's fluctuating, and there's so many draws that are connected to that community, that social emotional piece that is drawing and increasing attendance. Having really engaging academics can really help to lower the amount of behaviors that we might see, because students are engaged, they're interested, they're learning. So we want all those pieces to be connected as well. I had another slide, but that threw me off. That's okay. So as we talked about with prevention, there are many, many things that we're doing across the district that really are focusing on prevention. And then also some of these are a response to an event, which then leads to more prevention. So when we think about our classroom and our school-wide communities, that culture, those environments, those expectations, that all is the groundwork that really lays the foundation for students, like we saw this evening, feeling like their school is where they belong. That's going to help to prevent so many other things if students and staff and family feel connected in the environment. We also want to have really engaging, culturally responsive instruction. Again, the more engaged students are, the less apt we are to see other things come up. For staff, if they're connected, they're engaged, they have strong morale, that's going to help also set the stage for creating positive environments. We also have opportunities if staff need employee assistance. That does help to create a healthy culture when staff know that they can access resources as well. We also provide professional development around many, many topics that helps to increase staff awareness and skills when working with students. There are many physical things that we're doing across the district that do help safety when it comes to prevention. So thinking about our key fobs, the locking doors, the vestibules, those are all huge pieces of prevention as well. We had talked about the standard safety responses. We want that to be preventative, so we know what we need to do in the event something occurs. We have the Oregon Safe Tip Line. That might be the response to something that's occurred, and it also helps us evaluate our systems in a preventative way later. If we get a tip that comes in, we know, one, that our systems are working, and two, it gives us a chance to check in and make sure, do people know how to respond? Do they know how to report? And are we monitoring what needs to be in place that we're expecting to be in place? Nonviolent crisis prevention, while that can be a response to a situation, a student who's being unsafe, the training really focuses in on how can we de-escalate situations, how can we, again, be preventative so that we're not getting to the most extreme situation that we need to help increase safety. And then again, our behavior safety assessments, which we'll talk about. When an event occurs, we're wanting to stop that and to recognize it. And again, it helps us with prevention going forward, because if something comes up and we recognize, wow, this was something that happened during an unstructured setting, it gives us an opportunity to think about what is it that all students need in unstructured settings so that they don't get to this point. And then our community partners are huge pieces when it comes to building our overall communities and cultures. And they also support a lot of our specific responses when situations come up. And then, of course, our counselors, our social workers, our school psychs, and other mental health providers that we work with are working with staff to provide training and opportunity on the prevention side, as well as supporting students with small group and individual work to, again, prevent something that could come down the line later. This is all in alignment with the Oregon Department of Education's Oregon School Safety and Prevention Model. All of the things that you see represented in these circles are work that we have in play here in the district, and it's also connected to their integrated model of mental health and well-being. So as a district, we are constantly collaborating with the Oregon Department of Education, as well as the Multnomah Education Service District, MESD. They have specific staff now on site to support this work as well. So we're not out as a district just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. We're really working as collective groups within the county and the state to support these efforts. So that brings us to one of the specific processes that we have within our district around the behavior safety assessment and sexual incident response teams. So as a reminder, this might be familiar information and or new information for some of you, but there are several goals specifically around this process. And it's good to remember that we use the process that's based off of the Salem-Kaiser method, which is nationally recognized when it comes to behavior safety assessment. And it's really looking at how do we investigate a threat that has occurred and or actions that have taken place, and how do we support school staff in developing a plan that would be in place afterwards. And they're calling it a management plan here, but we're really looking at potentially, is there supervision that's needed, intervention, instruction, and or just maintaining what's been put in place after that. The teams do come together to assess risk and also thinking about what are some things that could help to decrease this or help to protect going forward when it comes for that student specifically who made the threat or made the actions, because we want to reduce risk in the future. This is not something that we can ever guarantee wouldn't happen, but we're trying to look at context and what are things that we can do so this doesn't occur again. and it isn't something that predicts whether something would happen or not. And it's also an opportunity that we do not want to label or profile students. This is when we're going through the trainings, we have conversations with staff around thinking about where implicit bias can show up and stereotypes. And we want to be really, really conscientious about that. And we don't want to label students because often when you'll see the data, elementary is where the highest number of our behavior safety assessments occur. And so we also have to think about that developmental stage and the context it occurs. Get that. All right. This is a huge part of being in a collaborative team. Previously, when we had risk assessments, it was really focusing on our school psych was kind of the keeper of all the information and really fostered and supported that process, but very often in isolation. Behavior safety assessment shifts that so that it's a team process for a variety of reasons. One, there's ownership and commitment from multiple people for the process and carrying through with the process. It's really shared responsibility and shared liability. Having something this significant sit with one person is pretty heavy. Just even sorting through an investigation, if only one person's doing that, there's the opportunity to miss things, and just our staff take everything to heart, and just being that single person puts a lot on them. And so we need to spread that out. And we have to have our building administrators critically involved in this because of that licensure that we hold and that liability piece. So they're critical in this. And it does allow, if you have multiple people, to collect a lot of information in a quick period of time instead of one person talking to the teachers, talking to the families, talking to all the students. That could take days and or into weeks. But if you have a team, they can divide and they can talk to multiple people and gather information and come back together quickly to be able to assess the situation as quickly as possible. This process really is, again, on focusing on how do we provide protective factors that inhibits this happening in the future. So for some students, if they're not engaged in before school activities, and maybe that's where they're feeling disconnected, how do we get them connected with things that are happening in the school community so that there's more people with eyes on them, they're building that connection, which helps to deter other things from happening. And we know that risk can change anytime. So life circumstances can increase those situations, the day of the week, the time of the year, other things that have happened. All of those things are ever changing. And so having a team evaluate a situation in real time helps with that. And we also, with that proactive piece, have to be actively working to limit the opportunities for risk to happen in our environments. And when we need to pull in additional agencies, just having those different perspectives, when we have mental health that are trained as a part of it, when we're connecting with our security folks that we're engaged with and have contracts, we consult with juvenile justice when we need to. We're consulting with folks in the community. We're consulting with folks in Gresham Barlow, or Gresham with their youth violence prevention. So there's many people when we need to that we're pulling in to help with additional information about the community, context, and opportunities for students. And we also want the staff that know the student the best to also be a part of this process, because knowing little things about a student can help you determine, like, was this a viable threat? Was this just a reaction to a situation? What else is going on? Multi-tiered, as we had talked about, we have multi-tiered systems in lots of places, and when we go through our behavior safety assessment, we also have tiers there. Level 1 or 0 is supposed to be intended as a quick response, and this can be, I often use the example, it might be a kindergartner on the playground who gets hit in the head with a ball and turns around and says, I'm gonna kill you, because of that response. And we want to take that equally as serious as when we have a 12th grader that has posted something on Snapchat with pictures and with some really strong language that sounds like a strong intent. We have to treat both of those initially equally serious, and there's different ways that we can respond from there. That kindergartner, we can have people come together really quick. It's a kindergartner, they got hit in the head with the ball. Many of us would say something really dramatic if that happened. What do we need to monitor when it comes to recess or to support the student? With something as significant as the high school example, that team might say, you know what, we have Snapchat, we have visions of weapons, we're gonna skip a level 0 because we need to act quick and we need to go deep. So that's why we have additional layers. And you can see at that site-based, we have our administrators, our counselors, and our school psychologists are that core team. And so at a level 0, the administrator is going to reach out to one of those or both of those folks to consult with that. At a level 1, all 3 of them are going to come together. If we need to move to a level 2, that's when teams are consulting with me so we can figure out what are all the things that we've done within our building settings, what are all the considerations, and what is it that we really need from that community group. Often from the community group, it is quicker access to mental health. It is collaborating with other agencies, including law enforcement. It also might be significant resources for the family because of multi-agency involvement. And so if we go to that, it's all the folks that are similar in my position of thinking about who are folks who can allocate resources, who are folks that can make decisions, who are folks that can say, yes, put this student at the top of the list. So having that group at the level 2 at the county is really, really powerful. And it comes into play outside of a level 2 safety assessment. So this week I've been on the phone to one of those folks because of students who are needing access to services, and we're trying to cut through some red tape. So those relationships really are helping to support Centennial students in other situations as well. So data that I've included in here is we get to see kind of the beginning before the pandemic. We have a pandemic year, and then afterwards. And so in this, in the copy of the slides that you also have numbers in the notes as well, because I know looking at percentages and then having numbers is helpful. But what you can see from this in our multi-year is that typically the inquiry level 0 is where we have the most, and that is where we want to have the most behavior safety assessments, because we want to go in at the entry level. We want to do that as quick as possible, and we want to look at that. And then you can see we do have during 2 years ago, and then also last year, we still have a very strong number when it comes to level 1s. And so level 1s include interviews with students, interviews with families, interview with staff, developing really extensive safety plans, and then having to monitor that. And as a district, we tend to have 1 or 2 students that need to go to a level 2 at that county level. So not very many. We wouldn't expect to have very many, and that stayed fairly low. And then our sexual incident responses are something that you can see it's varied, and we are taking that seriously, and staff continue to become more informed of when they should be conducting those. So again, we have a level 0, level 1, and level 2 for those as well. And then also wanting to show you where these are taking place. So you can see at elementary, we had more than 50%, and this is both including level 1s and level 0s. Middle school, 36%, and high school, 10%. And I think even when I pulled up the data, I was surprised, because this is where my bias was showing up and thinking about our older students. And really so much of this is happening with our younger students who are working on how to regulate themselves, and there's so many things that come out of their mouths. You know, we're seeing a lot more verbal things that show up at the elementary, whereas when we see middle and high school, those threats are showing up digitally and or in writing. So you can see just developmentally where that shows up, but it's nice to see, it's important to see, I think, where it shows up, and the response still is we're following the process regardless of if it's our youngest students or our older students. And then also including data here so that you can see across race and ethnicity and gender where that is occurring. And underneath in the notes here, you'll be able to see for last year's data specifically the comparison, so that you can see where we are disproportionate or in alignment with based on student demographics for the district. And our, you can see consistently our male students have the highest number across there. And then we also have our females are right here. And then we have a variation, and it looks like we've had, this is pandemic year, there were 6. So the data's not very varied there, but you can see throughout the years there are differences when it comes to race and ethnicity across who is making threats. And then you can also see this is our district-wide data. So it's easier to see underneath, but wanted to provide that as well. So that is the quick reminder about behavior safety assessment. Any questions before we go into our annual restraint and seclusion report? Yes.
Could you go back to the slide that had the keep going, one more, that
Yep.
one? So this one doesn't show the absolute numbers,
Oh, yeah.
right? In my mind, I guess I'd like to at least know what those numbers are. Did you go over that and I missed it?
It is underneath in the notes. So if you're looking at the slideshow, but I can highlight them really quick. So for the 2022-23 school year, this green bar right here, we had 28 sexual incident responses. We had 2 students who went to a level 2. We had 29 level 1s, and we had 57 level 0s.
Okay.
That year. Yep.
I do believe I've asked this before, and each time you tell me that it's in the notes. And that it should
It's
be
okay,
in the notes.
right? And you know what? I put it in the notes each time because I know we all need to look at it. So I appreciate you asking that. Yep.
You could just give a couple examples of what the sexual incidents
Yes.
are.
Yep. Yeah, it can vary, and so some of the sexual incidents that show up might be students using derogatory sexual terms towards other students. It could be some of our younger students on the playground might, when they're lining up, might swat somebody on the backside. We also have students who have accused other students of sexual assault or sexual harassment. And so we simultaneously look at this process to support the obligations and the requirements that we have to investigate for Title IX. And so this helps us with that piece as well.
Thank you. When you look at the very next one,
yep.
Are the SIRCs, the greens,
Yep.
included in this as well? Okay.
They are.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Great, please. Yeah.
And I think the second to last on the distribution by race, it does seem like a spike with Hispanic students. Is there any causes you can speak to or pursuits maybe that you're targeting that for?
I cannot at this moment. Yep. And the threats come in a variety of different ways. So thinking about for some students, they are posting, something on a Snapchat saying, I'm going to shoot the school. Some of it might be, somebody's mad at another person and they're making a threat verbally to another one. Some of them might just be making in general, like, I'm going to blow up the school. So threats can show up a variety of different ways. And we have had teams go through this process if we've had fights that have been really aggressive and or if they have been fights that were targeted towards other students that, that threat did eventually come to a fight. We've used it in those situations too. Yeah.
Director Curry, I see your hand.
Thanks. So I just had a question. I mean, the data looks pretty consistent from what we see. Now, I work in juvenile justice from what you see nationally. But my question is for the 10% of the older students, and you're making some references to social media, how are we getting those reports? Are those student reports, staff reports, combination of both? How are we knowing that those threats are existing on social media? And then what are our guide rails, I guess, in separating what students are doing on their own time versus, what may or may not involve, school staff or students. Hopefully that makes sense.
Great. Director Southerton, I'll start this answer, and if you want to help me clean it up, go for it. So the majority of the social media threats that come in are actually reported by other students. And so when we think about when you see something, say something, that's something that we're encouraging students. So the majority do come in that way. We do also have parents who report, and we also have staff that are so connected, both living in the community and connected to students, that they are catching wind by some other students. So the ways that we would expect things to come in is how they're coming in. And again, majority of the students are coming in and sharing, hey, I saw so-and-so had a post, or I heard about a post, and then that's kicking into a really quick investigation that often Director Southerton and some of our consultants help to support.
Yeah, well said, Director Wright, thank you. And definitely we encourage reporting. We want to create a culture of safety, belonging, inclusion, acceptance. And we in all aspects. And so just we work with our students, we work with our community partners, we work with our staff, we partner with Safe Oregon, we put information out, we lead with that in messages and continue to follow up and encourage that, and just have a lot of appreciation, because that see something, say something, is really taking hold in our community, and it greatly helps us respond quickly, know about the incidents, respond quickly, and work to make sure that everybody is safe. So, yeah, appreciate it.
I'll just add to the response because I want to make sure that the second part of Director Curry's question is sufficiently addressed as well. Where we draw the distinction is where something's legal or illegal. If somebody's making a threat to the school, obviously there's a law enforcement aspect of that potentially as well. And is it a material disruption to the school or the education of other individuals within it? And where that nexus exists is where the school has jurisdiction and responsibility to address.
Go ahead.
Just, you mentioned that we were using or have used the Salem-Kaiser model because it's, poor Salem-Kaiser is now in the news. It came out today about the increased numbers of incidences of violence in the school, et cetera. Sometimes news just catches something, and I could just see this is a report that was given at their board meeting, and something was just captured, right? But are we watching for trends? Another report came out about Gresham and more gun violence in the Gresham area. So are we keeping track of trends that are next door, or trends that are of other school districts, especially as if we're reporting the data in a similar way? I hope I made myself sort of clear about what I was asking.
Yeah.
I know that was a little muddled, but see what you can do with that.
Yeah, I think, the state of Oregon has recognized that students are really struggling with a lot of things right now.
Right.
And they have created additional positions to help with supporting some of this. So at the Multnomah Education Service District, they have a specific point person that's working on the school safety piece that we had mentioned earlier. And so they're helping to support with the suicide prevention work as well as the behavior safety assessment work, because there has been an increase in students making threats, again, whether they're verbal or posted. And so that's as a part of our collective work that we do here in the county. Those are conversations that we're having. That was part of why the city of Gresham received such a big youth violence prevention grant over the last couple of years, was to support that. And so they've provided funds for families to send kids to camp. They've done tons of activities during the summer over the last 2 years because they really want to build community, connect community, and the more engaged we all are, the less apt we are to engage in other things that are unsafe. And so those are trends that are being seen in several places, and I'm sure Director Curry, working in juvenile justice, you're seeing some of that play out in places where we don't want students to end up. We want to be able to support them. Here, we want to put that into the prevention as much as possible.
Thank you. Director Curry, do you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with my original question because I didn't want to throw too much at Director. So could you just briefly, you don't have to go through the whole thing, I'm just curious as to what systems we have in place when we receive these, especially the CERT reports about protecting students' due process and that sort of end of things. Like, are we involving parents? Do we have student advocates, superintendent, principal present? Like, how are we protecting their rights when these complaints are made?
Yeah, I'm going to start that, and I'm going to look at a couple folks if I need a cleanup again. So typically, we are looking at, as a school district, if we're made aware of a situation, we have the responsibility to investigate. And so this comes in a couple different ways. If a child abuse report has been completed, that's one way where I follow up with a building and say, I see a child abuse report that looks like student-to-student contact. Did you go through the sexual incident process? Did you go through behavior safety assessment, depending on what it is? If typically, again, staff are reporting to administrators, students are reporting, and we do have to follow multiple processes. Title IX is very clear when it comes to how we investigate, who we inform, and when we inform. And these processes, when we start at a level 0, it's very, very informal, and we do have to get families involved as soon as possible, especially once we have concrete information to follow up with. Any other? Yeah.
So that was sufficient. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You bet. All right.
All right, let's move along
okay.
to your next report.
Okay. All right, so the annual restraint seclusion report. We have shared multiple times at this time that we usually have very few restraints that occur. So I am going to click into our 22-23 report. Troy Gales usually has been joining us, and he is happily back in the classroom. And so we're transitioning full-time to me, and then probably next year we'll have somebody else joining. So as a district, we use nonviolent crisis prevention, NVCI, as our tool to help, one, support staff with the prevention side. How do we keep from getting in this situation? And if we do need to use physical intervention with a student, here are the approved tools. The training provides about 70 to 75% is around de-escalation and preventative. Very small part focuses on the actual physical holds. And even for our secondary staff, they typically don't do the holds because students are bigger than they are often, and so really wanting to keep it at the verbal de-escalation. So, and nonviolent crisis prevention is also one of the approved Oregon Department of Education options that we can use. So there was new legislation that came through this last season, and wanting to make sure that all districts have trained staff and have trainers. And we've used NVCI for years and years and years, which is great because some districts are having to change, which would be really difficult midstream. So this information took into account everything from last year, and you can see that we do have about 150 staff who are trained, and so every single one of our buildings has multiple staff who are trained in these supports. And for us, last year, there were 7 incidences at the elementary school and 2 incidences at our secondary schools. And there was a seclusion, which we don't have seclusion rooms, but it counts keeping a student in a space where they cannot leave. And for the students who had more than one incident, you can see at the elementary school, there was 1 student with more incidents. There were 6 of those and then 2. So if I'm reading it the same, right there. We had 2 students who were general education students. We had 7 students at needing the physical restraint who were eligible for special education, with that total of 9 incidents. And this is lower than we've had for multiple years. It was about 17 across the district. And so having less is important, because that means there's less students who are having adults put physical hands on them. That does not speak to the fact that we do have students who have really complex needs and might be needing other supports, and staff are trying to do everything they can except for putting hands on them. We're keeping that for the very, very last incident that we need to. And it has been true in the past. The majority of the incidents that are connected with our school district are for our students who are in the most restrictive placements, needing the most complex needs and support. And so you can see last year there were a total of 8 students who made up the 41 restraints, which speaks to a few students needing high levels of physical intervention. And for several of those students, they have 2 adults or 3 adults working with them at all times. And so those students are mostly at Wheatley, which is one of our out-of-district placement special school that specializes in students who experience disability with really, really complex needs. And then it's broken down by race and ethnicity also, so we can see the majority of our students who have experienced a restraint, needed one, were our white students. And last year, the comparison data was about 40-something% of district-wide students identify as white. About 20% of our students were multiracial, which that was 2 in this instance. Our district-wide data is at about 7 to 8%. So you can see disproportionality in both of those, and they're very small numbers. And we had 2 students who are Hispanic at about 20%, and our district has just about 40% of our students. And then you can see the students, there were 8 students who had multiple restraints for those. And we also have, based on gender, the majority of them are male who are needing those restraints in both the totals, 8 for the restraints and 1 for seclusion. So looking at that, we typically, this was the first year that we hadn't seen significant disproportionately for our students who were needing the physical restraint seclusions. And the majority of the students who are needing restraint seclusion are our students who experience disability, which has been similar to what we have seen in the past. And as you can see, we did have 2 incidences last year where either a student or a staff was injured during the restraint. And they were minor and didn't result in additional medical needs. We've spoken about the approved techniques, and we also are looking at how to decrease that option. And one of the things that we do for buildings is if we start to notice patterns, if there's multiple staff or students getting hurt or multiple restraints that are occurring, we do have 3 trainers, and so we'll coordinate with the building principal to meet with the staff who are trained and to problem solve what's happening in this space, what's happening for the student, what are some reminders around techniques, and what can we do differently to help keep the student and staff safe. And we continue to work on our prevention with our multi-tiered systems of support. And then we also do continue to have our district liaison, Patrick O'Brien, connect with our MESD support staff to see if there's anything around problem solving that they can do as well to reduce those numbers as possible. And that's all of our information about last year's restraint and seclusion. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Director Curry, do you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick. I noticed on both reports, we're seeing a disproportionate of male students at the top of these risk lists. Are we doing anything to track that and doing anything to intervene in a gender-specific way? Because it seems like, and this is typical, like I said, across, I mean, numbers are no different than they are for most districts across the U.S., but there are programs out there, certainly for the elementary school kids, the boys, de-escalation, teaching them, safer social emotional ways to express their anger and their frustration. Do we have anything like that in our district?
We do not currently have specific programs that are targeting males to support that. We are providing social emotional support to all students. And in a generalized way, many of our staff are talking about how do we have our classrooms more active for students, thinking about there are students who identify as male who need more activity or physically, and so that is a stereotype sometimes that we want to support, and thinking about who are the students who need to be moving, need to be hands-on, and need to be engaged in different ways. So those are some of the conversations we're having when we're thinking about our culturally responsive teaching. And we have not resurfaced with teams coming back to these specific data points around those pieces. So I think that's a good reminder that I need to be highlighting with staff that are supporting the work at the building level.
I would add,
excellent. Thank you so much.
I would add to that response, and Director Wright, I don't know, based on what I say, if there's anything that you'd like to add to or correct. But as I think about the individuals who may experience a restraint or seclusion, normally those students would also have an individualized plan that would have a 5-point plan that tracks their escalation cycle, that tracks what antecedents might be, that helps them with specific regulation strategies. I'm thinking zones of regulation as a program that we've used in the past, particularly for individual student plans, but then also with the school counseling program across the school as well. So I'm thinking there are some aspects in terms of what's provided for students who may experience some of these things that we're talking about tonight. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I think you said it really well. Thanks.
Okay.
I've got a question. The restraints that resulted in harm, were those internal or external? Do we know?
I don't know off the top of my head. Yep. I'm trying to remember both incidents that happened. I can't remember.
It's quite all right. And then I guess, anybody else have a question? One last question. Do you see a different, a higher proportion at any schools? So is there like a hot spot maybe where we can identify this school may need a little bit more resource, or is it really kind of spread out amongst the schools?
Yes, and it can vary from year to year. And so that's part of when the information comes to me that I'm monitoring for so that we can have staff follow up with certain buildings. So some of it has to do with the combination of students, the age of students, other systems that are in place. So we do monitor for that. Yep.
Director Curry, do you have another question?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, that concludes, let's see, I probably have one other slide. We're asking the questions already. So hopefully you all feel like you've gained more information about what's happening in Centennial, processes that we have in place, and these are processes that we continue to work on improving, and we wish that we did not have to use many of these processes, but we're glad that we have them in place, and I'm really appreciative to our staff that support this work on a daily basis. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. All right. Oh, looks like we've got a budget update report. Would you like to introduce?
All right, we've got Director Southerton this evening, who is going to provide a budget update report. This, I believe, represents an evolution of our budget committee process in which we normally go through in the spring and into June. One of the things we talked about a couple of years ago was incorporating a process in the fall where we can take a look at how things are shaping up relative to the budget that was passed so that we can see what's actually happening as opposed to what we plan to do. So Director Southerton is going to give us some information relative to that, and I know that he's collaborated with our Budget Committee Chair, Director Harden, in terms of preparation of the report. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Director Southerton.
Perfect. Thank you for teeing that up, Superintendent Owens. And it's well said. We do budget planning in March and April, May and June each year, and the board, and after the approval of the Budget Committee, the board adopts the budget in June, and that is based on a lot of hard work and forecast and detailed research that we're doing to build the budget and the best information at the time. And as Director Harden has said, now we need to see what really happened in September, what really happened in October, what students are showing up, how are students showing up, what are we doing in the schools, and we didn't have a process for that previously. It would wait until January when we did a budget work session that we would provide an update, or we would, talk about different things, and that was hard to do at one meeting. So this is a good opportunity to kind of do a little bit of a preview of how we ended the year. Did we end the way we really thought we were? And what are we encountering today, based on the information we had at the time and now based on actual data. So appreciate that. And I do want to recognize we do have a budget committee member in the gallery with us, Amber. So thank you, Amber, for attending and being with us and hanging in there tonight. I know this has been a little bit of a longer meeting. So as a reminder, our budget committee is composed of 7 community members and the 7 board members as well. So we greatly appreciate the community members that also volunteer their time to be on our budget committee. So just a quick kind of agenda before we jump into it, just kind of tell you where we're headed. So we'll talk about the general fund results for 2022, 2023. So we last looked at this data as a budget group or as a board at the end of last year and during the budget planning. And so now we have the benefit of having the audit almost complete, and we have great or better data on where we really ended up. We'll talk about enrollment, because enrollment does drive the vast majority of funding from the state of Oregon for everything that school districts do. It is a highly variable model. How many students are showing up and how students are showing up, what needs they present with, determines 99% of funding in school districts. There's not a fixed cost that says, oh, you have a school district, we'll give you X amount of dollars, and then we'll give you more if you have more students. It is entirely variable on how many. So biggest lever, if you will, on our budget as far as revenue coming in. We'll talk, I'll provide a general fund update. I'll also provide an update on other major funds. We have lots of various funds for various purposes in the district. I will not go through every one of them, but I will provide an update on major funds and provide a duration of the year forecast. And then we'll talk briefly about what next year looks like which we're incredibly early on, but we will begin that process in earnest again in February, right around the corner. And so this will be a little bit of a tee up for that. So our unaudited results, and you recall I said just a moment ago, the audit is almost finished. So while these are unaudited, we do have a high degree of confidence in these numbers from last year. And you'll be pleased to know that the audit should be finished in early January, if not by the end of the year. So as opposed to, it took until I think almost May to completely finish the audit last year. So we are on track and working towards the goal. So enrollment, which is different than ADM, or average daily membership, because average daily membership, unweighted, takes into account some absenteeism, right? And what is your average daily membership showing in? So I'm going to speak about enrollment because that's kind of the purest number that we have today, right? And it's also the top number that you see in the monthly reports for student counts. And so if you do go on to the Oregon Department of Education State School Fund, you will see ADM reports, and ADMW reports, or weighted reports. And so I just want to put that out there that you may see a slightly different number because it does take into account number of days attended. So we ended the year in June of 23 with 4 students more than we forecasted. So 5,554 at the end of June last year, and we forecasted that we would have 5,550. I cannot promise that we will be within 4 students on our forecast going forward. I just want to put that out there. If I was that good, I would be writing books or buying winning lottery tickets, and we would have the best schools in the world because I would devote all that money to that. So we are good. Our team, we have a great business office team. We have a great budget committee, and we get close often, and we got exceptionally close on that one. Our local and state support, or revenue, we call it support because we don't sell things, right? We're in the business of supporting community and helping to support successful adults and well-educated, well-rounded, wonderful students, right? So our support that we received came in at $73.4 million, which was above our forecast. I have some notes to the right, and in summary, what it comes down to is we received more local property tax revenue than we anticipated, largely because the increase in value, although it is capped, there is still an increase in value, and there was more properties built during the year than we anticipated and subject to local property taxes. While one may say that that's a good thing, it actually, in the way the state of Oregon works, we operate under an equalization model. And so every student, for all intents and purposes, gets roughly the same amount of support from the state, regardless in total support, I should say, regardless of if they're a high property tax district or a low property tax district. If you are a low property tax district, the state will give you more support, so you get up to the common number, total all-in number for local and state support on a per student basis. If you're a high property tax district, you'll get less per student support, but you'll end up at the same number as the other district. It's called the equalization formula. So what that means is bringing in more revenue means that the state gave us more dollars than they should have, because we forecasted that we would have less support than we receive from local property taxes. So we've budgeted, but they will claw back, is the term, that support out of this year's allocation for the state school fund. So we don't have a windfall of $500,000, is just what I'm sharing. And I apologize if that's a little bit too much inside baseball, but it is important for people to understand, because otherwise, they may think, oh, we have more money, there's lots of need, we can put that to work. And the state says, thank you very much, we will take that back. Expenses were under what we forecasted by about $1.9 million. So overall, we ended up in what we would say maybe is a positive. We'll touch on that we actually ended expenses much lower than what we budgeted, and that is, not a good thing. We want to spend what we budget because we need to provide those services for students, and we need to make sure that we have fully staffed buildings. We need to make sure that we complete the repairs that were complete. We have the bus drivers that we need, and so I don't put this, that's not in green as a highlight or a good thing, right? We want to make sure that we're spending what we plan to spend on what we plan to spend and have great outcomes for students. But we do own that's there, and something that we're working with Dr. Katsuda on and Dr. Delphin to make sure that we have all our positions filled this year and more additional partners to help with temporary staffing needs as well. And so I don't want to put them on the spot, so they can just maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but our fill rate overall is much improved this year. While not ideal, last year we were struggling with a vacancy rate that may be in the 15 or 20% on high call-out days or high absenteeism days when combined with the regular vacancies that we had, which is a very difficult environment for our staff to operate in and our students to learn in. So this year, based on what I'm seeing from the data, and they do track it on a daily basis to have shifts filled and positions covered for absenteeism and otherwise, I'm seeing, fewer than 5% positions open, and it's anecdotal because it's based on absenteeism or other things. So that's all to say we're not where we need to be, but there is vast improvement, and I don't anticipate seeing this repeat itself in the current budget year. Anything I need to clean up on that? Okay. All right, so the main event, if you will, is enrollment. So, we want to make sure that we have wonderful students in our schools and that are learning and achieving, and we're serving our community. So these are K through 5 numbers. So if you look at any historical information apart from last year, you'll want to just be mindful that we went from K6 to K5. So last year it was fine because that was K5 as well, but just if you're looking at 2021 or other previous years, you'll want to note that we, moved the grade band up to the middle school from the elementary level. So you can see from these numbers, and I did code these here, color-coded, so we're plus 24 students versus October last year versus October this year. And we use a point in time for measurement because it does fluctuate throughout the year, right? And so when we're measuring data, we want to, use a similar point in time and use similar benchmarks to kind of see where we're at. 6 through 8, 5 fewer students, and 9 through 12, 65 fewer students. Part of that I can share is that we had a smaller band coming in, grade band for 12th grade this year than we had last year coming in. And so that's 11th grade moving up, primarily, not the only impact for sure, but primarily. What we may see later on in the year is move outs or push outs or students, not attending additionally for other reasons. So 18 through 21, which is our Centennial Transition Center, and outplacements are grouped together. They are different, but they are grouped together on the student report. So I grouped them together on this slide for that benefit. But just to be clear, those are often different. I don't know that we have any 18 to 21s that are with MESD. Can you confirm, Director Wright? Thank you. So there is some crossover, but largely it is all grade bands plus 18 to 21. So thanks for the assist, Director Wright. That you'll note is green, although it is a negative number. And that is because we want to be an inclusive district. We want to meet the needs of our community and our students in district. And so when we have more students here, rather than others providing those services, we look at that as being positive. We've gained the competencies or skills and staff to serve our students in our buildings. So that's a positive, and that's why it's green. Before I jump into the current year, I've already kind of thrown a lot of information at you. I'm happy to pause for questions on enrollment or last year before we look at current year, if there are any for the board or Director Curry, who's attending remotely.
No questions for me.
Fantastic. I will continue. So the current year, 2023, 24, general fund update, and again, this is specific to the general fund. It makes up the majority of our use. It pays for the majority of our operations. It is the biggest part of our budget, although I will provide a other major funds update as well. So as of December, we're actually seeing 5632 for our number of enrollment, which you may say, that's an increase. Wow, that's unexpected. It is. It's great. It's actually a really nice indicator that we're having more students enrolled in December than we do in October. That's not always the case. So great point there, and a little bit different than what we forecasted for now. Revenue, we're currently forecasting 74.7 versus the 75.1. So that is the clawback from the state school fund. And we do think we'll have a little bit more indirect revenue from grants to kind of make up that $100,000 delta that you see between 75.1 and 75.7. So that will cushion the clawback a little bit. And we did receive that money last year, so we do have it. We don't have to give it back. They take it out of this year. So overall, it will balance out. But I just wanted to note that. Expenses are budgeted to be $77.2 million this year, and we are largely on track with that number. As I said, staffing making up our biggest component, 85% roughly of every dollar we spend goes to our people and to their benefits and payroll expenses, and we are largely staff. We anticipate our expenses to come in much closer to what we budgeted. You'll notice the final line here that we had some planned deficit spending. So deficit in our terminology is exceeding our revenue. And so we anticipate that we'll be roughly on track with that planned deficit spending. And again, it is planned. It was budgeted for and approved by the Budget Committee and by this body, and it is part of our planned ending fund balance spend down. So whereas, last year we didn't spend as much as we anticipated, we want to be mindful that we do still have those funds and not force ourselves to make cuts this year, because continuing operations will result in a deficit. We have those funds. We can fund that. We can continue providing services for students. That's a number that we want to be mindful of, because deficits, as we all know, can grow, and we won't always have previous positive years to pull from. But I do want to just share that, because some people may look at a deficit and be concerned, and it was planned for. Other major funds, so CARES Act or ESSER 3 is a large part of our grants budget, and it is the temporary funding that is supporting the response to the COVID-19 pandemic and supporting preparation for any future pandemic. So dual purpose of that. And so large portion of ours is focused on unfinished learning over the last 3 years. 20% of ESSER 3 is required, and we well exceed that spent on unfinished learning the previous 2 years and this year. And so that is paying for additional teacher positions and EA positions, largely to help with building-based floater positions, so that when we have absenteeism or we have to do intense coaching and tutoring or other things, we have the people that are already working for us and in the schools and able to meet those needs that are happening. Summer school was also funded this past year. Centennial continued with a robust summer school programming, about 5 times our normal summer school expense last year. And in the previous years, we had received some grants from the state of Oregon for that summer school programming. We didn't last year for the vast majority of it. We funded that with our ESSER dollars because we know that need remains. And so a large amount of that went to summer schools, special education recovery services, and summer school for every grade band in the district from elementary up to high school. It also went to support new curriculum materials that were in our various schools, and that was adoptions of both math curriculum and then language arts and ELA, ELD in previous years. It went to support responsive classroom training, so speaking about how to have culturally responsive classrooms, in sharing professional development with our staff, how to have classrooms that are serving students and supporting students. That's one of the things that it also went to support. It also went to making schools safer and preparing for the next pandemic. So that was mechanical and ventilation improvements. We'll have window and door updates, not to every window and door in the district, but many of the windows and doors were inoperable, were small openings, didn't encourage a lot of ventilation, didn't provide egress necessarily if there were other issues. And so we targeted our most severe window and doors, and we're doing a lot of that updates. We also did asbestos abatement, because asbestos is one of the most hazardous airborne potential threats that people can have in a contained environment. And so we did a lot of asbestos abatement with our ESSER and CARES Act dollars. So again, creating that all forms of safety focused on that. So important to note, ESSER does expire in September 2024. So there is no extension approved yet with the Congress, and so we would need an extension past 2024. Centennial anticipates spending all our ESSER funds by September 2024, and not giving back any dollars. So there is interest in expanding and lobbying and expanding, because not all districts have been able to spend the money because of shortages and supply chains and other things. So there may be an update on that at a future time. The second major fund that I just want to touch on is the Student Success Act. So Director Callahan spoke about that previously and provided a much more robust and detailed report. But as a business office, you can probably always count on me to bring you some numbers. So, you know, these are the things that it's supporting. So Centennial Virtual Academy, principal, teachers, classified staff, it takes people, right, to stand up that virtual academy for non-traditional learners and others that prefer that remote or virtual operating or educational model. So that was a big part, is a big part of our supporting our students. Adding social workers, adding a counselor, adding a behavior specialist, adding EL teacher, adding 4 middle school teachers, adding 4 assistant principals at our elementary schools who have large classes in our new Centennial or Oliver Middle School. Expanding middle school sports, in some cases bringing back middle school sports, because we didn't have it at Oliver to begin with, and we only had track at Centennial Middle School. We heard today passionately from, you know, educators as well as students, those co-curricular connections and what it means to them educationally, and so, and how that connects with the students to make sure that they want to show up, they make sure they want to engage, make sure they want to excel. So that's been a big part of our plan as well. Expanded family communication, so we, you know, have a person now, still have time, but dedicated to supporting Chief Correa, reaching out to people. Cynthia, she does great and helps with a lot of those connections and cultivating that communication. And so, and then expanded out of district placements for our students that need that highly specialized education services and other services that we're not yet capable of providing or don't yet have the competency to provide in district. Hopefully we will, but until that time, we want to make sure that we're still supporting those students. Measure 98, otherwise known as High School Success, is approximately $2 million of recurring funding. And so there's a lot of programs that we support that, and it's another major component of our district that supports our students. So 9th grade success program, staff development to better serve students, our CTE programs greatly benefit from Measure 98. Dropout prevention is a part of that grant as well, and our almost said outplacements, but our opportunities for students to take expanded electives at Cal, or the Center for Advanced Learning, which is the cooperative between our 3 East County districts here, are also funded by Measure 98 largely. They have some general fund funding as well, but they're largely funded. College Possible is a great program that's serving our students that focused a lot of times on students that it may be the first time in their family of attending college, and helping with opportunities and things like that. So great program. And then also elective support for 8th grade, because they are incoming high schoolers. So there's 15% of funds dedicated to that. Again, a lot of information, but I'll wrap up with the forecast for this year that unfortunately we do see a downward trend from October to June. So we are forecasting that we will probably end up in June at the 5,500 number. We will do everything we can, you know, to make sure we're supporting our students, we're engaging our students, we're keeping our students. And we just want to also be mindful that this is a long kind of standing trend in many districts, not just Centennial, that your highest enrollment is in October, your lowest enrollment is June. for many reasons. Early graduation is a part of that as well, and other things, but that's something that we need to recognize when we're talking about budgeting. State support, there's no discussion of any curtailment to state support or reduction of state support. There's minor conversation of maybe increased state support in future bienniums. So we appreciate our continued partnership and advocacy with COSA, with our union partners and others for the quality education model, and having the support that would really fund what we need to serve all our students. But as of now, it's stable and our expenses are stable. So we anticipate ending the year with the planned deficit spending of $2.5 million. 2025 and beyond, so I'm almost done. Thanks for hanging in there. A couple of noteworthy considerations when we're speaking about the budget, but also our operations. But from a business manager, you're going to get the budget lens, and so please just take that from the business manager, not the district as a whole. But things that we want to consider, and we'll share with the budget committee, is we are bargaining with our wonderful employees that are made up of the classified group. These are fantastic employees that we greatly appreciate, that drive our buses, serve our students in the classroom with EAs. That there are secretaries that answer the phone and talk to our families coming in. There are dining services people that serve lunches and breakfasts to our meals, or meals to our folks. There are IT people that keep our networks running. So great members of our staff, and we're in bargaining for a successor contract, which will start shortly, and we don't know what that impact will be yet on our budget for next year or other. We did a 3-year contract last time, and so if we, which is always a conversation of bargaining, again, not to delve too deep in out of my lane here, but it's always a conversation of bargaining as well. What will the duration of the contract be? So we don't know, if it'll be another 3-year contract and what the impacts will happen. That'll all be bargained, and we look forward to bargaining with our partners in a successful successor agreement. ESSER funds are anticipated to fully sunset, and again, we're spending our dollars because our need is immediate, right? Our student need is now. We don't want to wait, and so we've been working on that, right? And then our safety is the increases we need to do is now. So, we're not anticipating having to give any money back to the federal government, and it was given to us for the urgent need, and it's being spent on that urgent need. But it is sunsetting, and that was very helpful. Blatantly, we talked about how students are returning and the various needs and complexities that they have, and those aren't necessarily going away. And so it was great to have that funding. Unfortunately, it is going away, so that is something to consider. Bond work, thank you, Centennial community, for passing the 2020 capital bond. Will largely be wrapped up, but will be completely wrapped up by 2024. So 25 budget, so fantastic. State funding's been established because we have the biennium. It's been adopted by the legislator. We know, generally what we can count on from the state, which is great. Some challenges, we know what we're getting, so we know we're getting a 4% increase, and we know that our costs will increase higher than that, unfortunately. So that means that we will have some tough decisions about, of what to do. So in 6%, this is, we have steps increases in our contractual agreements, and then we have COLAs. They do make up the vast majority because they're 85% of our expenses, but there are many other expenses, and they're increasing, frankly, often at a greater rate that are a smaller part of our budget, but the services that we pay for others to provide, or the things that we buy, are largely going up at a greater rate than what our salaries or COLAs may go up. And our employees feel that in their personal lives as well. You all maybe have felt that as well. So I put that out there just to share, to communicate. In 2025, 2027, the biennium, that 2 years, we've already received notice that PERS is going up as well. And so for school districts, PERS will likely increase the rate that we pay, unfortunately, not the benefit for retirees necessarily. But the rate that we will pay will increase for all bands by approximately 1.5%. And that's on gross wages, so it is equal to an additional 1.5% increase on our costs. But unfortunately, employees will not see that. That will all go to PERS. So something to consider, additional cost. And PERS rates, for those that are unfamiliar, are assessed at the biennium, so they're assessed on 2-year bands, not year to year or not for 5 years. So challenges, and you'll see my picture. You know, it went from maybe a little bit sunny to a little bit cloudy, and so that's challenges and opportunities, right? It's not storms. Centennial is in sound financial position. You know, we have amazing people that come to work here every day and in service for our students, and so we're fortunate in many ways. And, you know, unfortunately, financially or budgetarily, you know, there's some work to be done, so to speak, for us, and some opportunities kind of look at. So, and overall, that's what I'm happy to report tonight. Centennial student enrollment is stable, some uncertainty with the economy and labor agreements, but financially stable position, and following our planned spend down for ending fund balance as the board and budget committee have committed to. So a lot of information, a lot of talking on my part. I apologize. Not nearly as interesting as the Oliver school presentation. I don't know how one competes with that. That was fantastic. Kudos again to Oliver and students and staff. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Southerton.
Good overview. I think it's important for us to just be kind of brought up to speed, getting us thinking in those directions. That's important. It's kind of a nice thing not to have to think about sometimes, but this is helpful. Gently bring us back into the reality of February when we get
Yeah.
I do have one question, or maybe not a question, but when I see percentages and I don't have it against a particular number,
Sure.
That's a little bit more difficult for me to, like, look at 5% of PERS going up. Well, what is that in terms of impact? And not for tonight at
Sure.
all.
Yeah.
But when we do that, I think reporting in both percentages and the actual dollars help me better understand, especially as it relates to that amount of money that calculating 1.5%. So that would be my only thing. When we get into that point, especially with our budget committee members, anything we can do to add there.
Yeah, fantastic comment and suggestion. I'll definitely incorporate that in the future. It is just in rough terms, 1.5% is around $750,000 a year, because our total payroll ex benefits is about 50 million for our licensed staff, our classified staff, our non-union staff together. So 1.5%, about $750,000.
I do have one question. With the summer school expanded due to the ESSER funds, do we anticipate reducing the amount of summer school that we're offering due to not having those funds?
It's an excellent question, and you know, one that we'll look to the board and the budget committee to help advise as we engage and embark on this budget process this year. We're also working with Director Callahan, our Director of Student Learning and Curriculum, as well as other directors and our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Kasuda, you know, to see what are the highest lever strategies for our students, given that the funds are sunsetting. So, you know, should we plan for this as a regular expense in future years, absent the ESSER dollars? Are there other strategies that are more effective, given that we are in an aspect losing some funding from, you know, and so where are the activities, you know, where's the money best spent to support the best outcome for students with the resources that we have? It's certainly on the table and was included in our plan, because ESSER goes through September of 2024, and summer school would fall before that. Well, in the next budget year, it would fall before the deadline. And so we have held back, if you will, an additional $500,000 for next budget year to be used on summer school or other strategies that would prove effective for students.
All right, thank you very much,
All right.
Director Southerton.
Thank you all.
Superintendent's report.
I know you've just sat through 2.5 hours plus of reports, and we've got some action items and an executive session on the agenda. We try to get all that done by 10, so I will aim for quick. It's my privilege and pleasure to share with you an update about the happenings in the district. Before I forget, as a component of our school presentations to the school board, in the front entry of the district office, we will be showcasing displays of student work from students that are of the school that are being featured. So this month on the display boards, you will see artwork from art teacher Amy Green's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. They are working with a multitude of modes, so you'll see quite a variety of different styles and designs. In fact, OMS brought over so many pieces of artwork that we papered the walls of the cubicles in the district office, in addition to the display boards in the front area. So on your way out, take a look, and as you come in next month for the next presentation, you'll see work from students from that respective school. As you saw featured in the report previous with Oliver, last Friday, U.S. Senator Ron Wyden came to Oliver Middle School to speak to a provision of the new federal Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which will allow new flexibility to access Medicaid funding for children's mental health treatment. For context, Centennial has billed Medicaid for years because we know how important it is to stretch our dollars as far as they can go, but we've historically been limited on what we can bill for, and while useful, the money that we have recouped by doing it hasn't been a lot. So while organ therapists licensed by state boards, such as the Board of Psychology, can bill Medicaid for helping school-age children, most Oregon school psychologists and social workers are instead licensed by the state's educator credentialing agency, and as a result, they have not been allowed to bill Medicaid. So the new flexibility to seek reimbursement for behavioral health services could significantly increase the funding that we receive from the federal government. Assuming our current providers could bill for the work that they're already doing, that could help fund additional positions, and we'd be looking to hire qualified mental health professionals who could also bill, which would reduce our reliance on outside service providers who are also stretched thin, as you likely know. I would go out on a limb, and this was said by Mr. Hubbs as well, that while it was an honor to host the senator, Oliver Middle School 8th grader Sofia Vargas stole the show. Her poise, composure, and articulate comments brought to life a frankly boring topic. So kudos to Sophia and the OMS staff for pulling together, hosting this event on such short notice. It was also nice to see directors Andrew, Stanley, and Lynn present as representatives of Centennial. So I'll invite them now to share any comments they might have about their attendance or not.
It was great.
Sophia was awesome.
That was the gist of the meeting.
Everybody was awesome. And if you had been there, you would see these pictures don't reflect it. The pictures that Jeb had did, that afterwards, Senator Wyden and his entourage, he had an entourage, of course, as you can imagine, all left, but the reporters stayed. The Oregonian reporter sat down with about 10 kids. I didn't pay attention to what they were talking about or anything, but they were there for a long time. And then the television reporters had all their microphones right in front of Sophia's face, and they were interviewing her. And so the entourage left. The press briefing was over. But who did they talk to? They talked to the Oliver kids. They talked to Denise. They got more information from Denise about what was going on with regard to Medicaid in the school, in the district here. It was beyond impressive. Everybody from Centennial, students, staff, administration, just did a fantastic job.
Speaking of photos, photo credit, Chief Rosales Correa was not available that day, so we had our own Missy Grindle and my wife Nicole, who took pictures that day, so that was nice to have them on hand to do that. Fly You at Oliver Middle School. Oliver Middle School is very much in focus this evening, so last Wednesday morning I had the opportunity to join MESD Superintendent Dr. Paul Coakley in visiting OMS for Fly You, which is an offshoot of the Fly Academy out of Tigard. Fly Academy started as a competitive basketball program in Portland about a decade ago. It's earned a strong reputation as a top-tier program, helping over 50 players advance to play in college. Former Centennial teacher and current MESD student engagement specialist Esther Harris was familiar with that program and connected with representatives from YU at Oliver Middle So what is FlyU, you might appropriately ask, and you already found out a little bit about in the previous presentation. The program teaches students basketball fundamentals while mixing in character development through motivational speakers and journaling. It functions as an attendance incentive and through high engagement and cultural relevance. During our visit, following their skills practice, students had a guest speaker from Nike, who is a shoe designer for brand Jordan. He spoke about his background and his work, which led to helping students work towards developing their quote-unquote brand. In that case, the brand pertains to the work ethic they have, who they spend time with, and how they conduct themselves. Currently, 42 OMS students are enrolled in the program. Students were nominated to participate by school staff, and then there was also an invitation to all students extended as well. So kudos to Principal Hubbs in his continued pursuit of unique and creative partnerships to help engage OMS students. This afternoon, Board Directors Andrews and Lynn and Director of Business and Operations Southerton and I attended the official celebration of the new Eagles Court at Centennial High School. This reimagined and remodeled space is something I spoke about at a previous meeting in the fall. Today we had the opportunity to recognize staff who were involved in the imagining and designing of the space, learning the new menus, and in particular the dining services staff who patiently tolerated the construction happening in the early months of the school year, as they were also in the process of working to serve student meals. Chief Communications Officer Albert Rosales Correa put together a short video this afternoon that I promise is short, and I will share it with you momentarily.
All of the noises and all of the detours and working off of crates and working off of carts ended up having this beautiful space for you to continue your work to fueling students every day. So we just want to thank you from the dining services, from myself and the office team. You know, we don't often say thanks enough, but we wanted to do this small party for you and be able to say thank you for what you do and how you endured during this time of construction, and will continue to facilitate this beautiful new environment to continue to fuel not only our Centennial High School students, but the Albina Head Start and other students that we do through the satellite program that also runs out of this building. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It was really a feel-good moment for the school and for the dining services group particularly. And you always find out little bits and pieces of things. So, you know, our winter break starts Monday, right? Or actually it starts Friday afternoon. But not for everybody in dining services, because Portland Public is going to be in school all next week, and they provide meals to some of the facilities there. So they're going to be at the high school next week, putting together meals, delivering meals when the school is not in session.
All right. Last Wednesday, a collection of Centennial educators from across the district, including presidents from OSEA and CEA, met for a meeting in a series of special education program review meetings that Director of Student Services Denise Wright is hosting alongside the Swift Education Center. We value the work of our educators and their ongoing efforts to support the learning needs of our students with specialized needs, and we know there is room for improvement. In alignment with Roadmap 27, Director Wright is convening a meeting series throughout the year to assess our current reality, and the group will be providing recommendations for how we can develop programming and skills, as well as collective understanding of the concept of rightful presence, to increase access to general education curriculum for students who experience disability. This includes ways to decrease our reliance on our out-of-district, more restrictive placements. As an update to the information shared to the board in November, Centennial has now been approved by Multnomah County for all 30 preschool for all pilot slots that we requested. The slots will connect 3 and 4-year-olds to free, culturally responsive, inclusive preschool experiences beginning in the 24-25 school year. The pilot site contract is for 4 years. Each year, Centennial will be able to apply for more slots. As a pilot site, we will receive funding for startup costs to support the purchase of materials from Multnomah County. You might be wondering where this is going to happen, and I'm not going to tell you yet. So the identification of site or sites is still in process. I will be able to share that with you to the board once that's available, and I'd like to express my appreciation to Early Learning Administrator Kendra Hughes for her efforts in securing these important grant funds. Through a connection made by Director David Lynn with Sherry Wilmshin, who you see in glasses in the picture, I believe, from St. Timothy Lutheran Church, 145th and Powell, who also has a son who attended CHS back in the 90s. I'll give you some stats here. 148 coats were distributed to Pleasant Valley, Patrick Lynch, Park Lane, Centennial Virtual Academy, Oliver Middle School, Centennial High School, Powell Butte Meadows, and Butler Creek. Centennial Middle School opted out due to their own connection with Columbia Sportswear. This was the first time hosting a coat drive, and they did a fantastic job supplying new coats of all sizes. CSD social work interns supported logistics and logged over 40 miles collectively in distribution and collaboration with our school counselors. CHS and OMS coats were gone within days to students in need. Students across the district, particularly those who don't qualify for other programs, were provided warm jackets just in time for winter. So kudos to all involved, and in particular Director Lynn for making this connection.
I want to take any credit. I will pass along all the credit to Sherry and the church. It was a wonderful event.
Great. On a final note, I want to share with our board and our community a wish for each of you to have a happy holiday season. The end of the year and the start of the new year brings with it opportunities for reflection, hope, and gratitude. And as a learning community, we have accomplished much in 2023 and are looking forward to even more in 2024. This includes finalizing and celebrating our bond projects and further implementation of Roadmap 27. So please accept my best wishes for a break filled with special moments and memories. I know not all of you are able to have a traditional winter break, as we do in schools. Nevertheless, I hope you are able to take time to relax, recharge, and connect with those you care about and enjoy the holiday season. I welcome any questions or comments that you have, and that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent Owens. There are no questions or comments, are there? Great, let's move right along to confirmation items. Yeah, no, just kidding. All right, confirmation items. May I get a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, both OSEA and CEA were unable to come present reports this evening. There was a choir concert at the middle school. There was a couple of other events going on, and so they both declined. So we will move on to confirmation items.
Move to approve the confirmation items as presented.
Second it.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Director Curry is an aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. All right, looking at item number 7, there is no old business, but we do have an item of new business with Director Callahan, who has hung in there with us. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to present the Student Investment Account Grant Agreement between Centennial School District and the state of Oregon. The purpose of this grant is to provide funding to assist in meeting students' mental or behavioral health needs and increasing academic achievement and reducing academic disparities for students from racial or ethnic groups that have historically experienced academic disparities, students with disabilities, English language learners, economically disadvantaged students, students who are homeless, and students who are foster children. The amount of the grant is $5,750,000 $676,965 to be used between July 1st, 2023 and September 30th, 2024. These funds will be used for increasing instructional time, addressing students' health or safety needs, reducing class size, expanding availability of and student participation in well-rounded learning experiences. And our intended outcomes are the finalized code development longitudinal performance growth targets, otherwise known as the LPGTs, in the 5 common metrics, being 4-year cohort graduation, 5-year cohort completion, 9th grade on track, 3rd grade English language arts proficiency, and regular attenders. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approves the SIA grant agreement as presented.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, things to talk about? Fantastic. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Director Curry is an aye.
Awesome. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Moving on, future agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they would like to bring up for future agenda items?
Is this where we talk about the baseball thing? You mentioned something earlier with the.
We can definitely, yep.
I know that's probably a longer conversation. I'm just curious if maybe we can put it on
A future
schedule
agenda.
to talk about, because I
Yeah.
do have things to say about it.
Yep.
But not today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. We'll bring it up at our next board leadership meeting. Please.
OSBA puts on a bonds ballots.
Yep.
Something that
It's coming up.
in February,
Mhm.
so it should be on our calendars to at least look at and see if we have anybody who might be interested in playing in this and check it out. It's just to keep ourselves as a level of awareness about what needs to be done.
It's called, what's it called? Bonds, ballots,
Ballots and
levies, maybe?
I have it in my calendar, it's in my phone.
Okay.
But it's in our, you know how when we get the clips every
Yeah.
day? Just scroll down, it's one of those blocks, and it's in February.
Are you going to be presenting again?
No, I don't think there's a good
Okay.
presentation.
February 16th,
Great.
2024. Bonds, ballots, and buildings.
Is that a Monday?
There you go. Yeah.
Is that a Monday? Friday. Okay.
In Salem, right?
Good times.
Yes, it's Salem Convention Center.
Other things people would like to bring forward for future agendas?
I always have a list. but
I know, that's why I'm looking at.
That's why you're looking.
Quick
Oh, go ahead.
announcement. We found out today the Centennial neighborhood Portland got a grant for $20,000 for resiliency hubs. We're still fleshing that out and what's that gonna look like, more like a community center or a network of organizations and people doing things in the community, including hopefully schools. And this is not just first like disaster response and earthquake preparedness, but then also, you know, heat events, cold events, and then eventually, hopefully, you know, discussions about what makes our community resilient in case of financial crashes or pandemics. So hopefully that's where this is moving towards. So.
That's amazing. Thank you.
January is School Board Recognition Month, so it'll be exciting to be able to recognize the board when we come back from break. We have fall athlete recognition that we intend to do either the first or second meeting in January. The next school report is the Meadows School Report, so we'll be looking forward to seeing the Tiger Cubs at that point. We have the Early Literacy Success Grant Proposal Report and consideration for approval that will come up in January. We have a possible budget committee candidate. We know we have an open position and we have somebody who is tentatively interested, and so an application is likely forthcoming. We have a few policies, and then as was discussed here, the CHS baseball trip as well.
Thank you. I mean, I did say I wanted to buy something. I wasn't actually asking for gifts, but. All right, where are we at? 9:32? We're adjourned. Like, what's going on? It's late. All right. Now we're gonna do executive session in like 2 minutes.